What is up, Notre Dame Nation? It is post-game showtime, which means we're going to talk Notre Dame Cal. What a wild day. But Notre Dame went out, got the W, beat Cal 24-17. First win of the Marcus Freeman era, fellas. And interesting game. You know, Vince, you and I had a lot to talk about as we were, discussing everything we saw today. And the comment that I came away with, Vince, that I said to you and I'll say to everyone here is the biggest thing for me is this is the best feeling after a game for two reasons. One is, as Vince said to me, it's a whole lot better to work on stuff after a win. And number two, this was a game to me where, guys, I felt like there was all the stuff that happened today was correctable stuff. It was execution stuff that's, that some of it they fixed in game, like early on, first pass pro, give up a sack on a 4-man pressure of a Mike Fire. You're like, here we go again. Didn't happen again. They cleaned it up, right? Run game was better. Dropped passes, missed reads, blown contain, all the type of stuff that can be fixed. But what we saw today was a team that came out and played with a lot of fire and a team that played with a lot of passion. And that is a good sign, guys, because this team was backed up against the wall and we wondered, how are they going to come out? And there's a lot to fix with this football team.
Oh, yeah.
From an execution standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint. But I felt really good about the game plans that both used and implemented in the game. And I also felt like this team came out and played with some attitude. And so there's a lot of things we're going to address today about concerns coming out of this game. But this team grinded out a win today. And it was sloppy and there was a lot of mistakes. But when the offense needed to step up and make plays, they did. When the defense needed to step up and make plays, for the most part, they did. Now, they weren't perfect, because, offense goes down and scores and the defense gives one right back up. But late in the game, when they needed to make plays, they made plays, Foskey sack and all those type of things. Then also the silly penalties almost got them back in it, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is they did what they needed to do, and they controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. That is without question something that happened today. That's a good step in the right direction. And that's all today was, right, guys? It was a really good step in the right direction. It is not as all as well. There's a lot to fix. But, Vince, to your point, man, I'd much rather be here today talking about you need to fix this, and this after you got your W than what we've experienced the last 2 weeks.
Well, look, Notre Dame was in desperate need of a win, right? I mean, that bottom line, they needed a win, and they needed a win bad. And frankly, I didn't care how they got it as long as they got a win. And it was definitely in doubt at times throughout the game today, right? And another thing that you and I talked about, and when the game was over, was that if Drew comes out a little bit more, executes a little bit better at the beginning of the game, this game's really not even all that close. He missed some wide open passes. I thought the game plan that Tommy Rees put together was instituted so that he would get comfortable quick. And it was almost like he's like, I don't need to get comfortable. I'm just not going to be comfortable. Like, stop. It just like he was bucking against the let's get comfortable thing. And I don't know. It was rough sledding at first, but I really like how both sides of the ball responded in the second half. That was key. I mean, and it wasn't even a game plan type of thing. I mean, they kind of I feel like they did change the offensive game plan a little bit just because Pine wasn't connecting the way he needed to early on. So they went to more of a running attack and things like that. But in the second half, specifically up front, both lines just, took over this game. When Notre Dame can come out and score in the first 3 drives, that was fantastic. I didn't like how they ended it, offensively. That was frustrating to me, the way they ended it. I felt like I wanted them to go down and get another score and just, end this game, and they couldn't do it, and they kind of left the defense hanging out to dry a little bit, some dumb penalties and things like that. But I liked what I saw from the offense, specifically up front in the second half. So that was very promising.
I was just going to say
I was in on you, Ryan. We've already kind of let off, so going around the clock.
My apologies. I was just going to say that for me, Vince, I really felt like early on in the game, the offense was fully structured to getting Drew Pine in sync, like you kind of said, right? Like they were trying to get him in rhythm. And then as they were struggling in the first half. They kind of came out in the second half and were more of a like, let's get bully ball going a little bit, like we got to kind of flip the script a little bit, right? So I think that there was a lot of good moments, and I actually thought Tommy Rees called a pretty good game, if I'm being honest. Like there was some pigeonholing.
We'll definitely get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But yeah, okay. I mean, we'll get to the offense and the defense. But yeah, it's kind of go big picture right now.
Yeah.
So please continue. Ryan, are you there? Is he gone?
I think Ryan is paused out.
Ryan is frozen. Okay. Maybe Ryan is frozen now and can't hear us. So we are having some StreamYard issues tonight, everybody. It's not our connections. It's a StreamYard issue. So StreamYard, for whatever reason, all three of us have bad signals right now. So hopefully that gets corrected here. And Ryan's in Jersey, where it could be explained. Vince and I are in the same neighborhood, so it could say, hey, not a good sell. But Ryan's in Jersey. So, I'm not quite sure what the issue is. So, but we'll get Ryan back here pretty soon. So, Vince, I mean, look, man, there's other than special teams, there's not a phase of this game today that doesn't need to improve.
Oh, absolutely.
But to the point you make, and I think Ryan was going to go there too, man, this team came out and played really, really hard tonight.
Yes,
or today. And that's,
Well, and that's huge because and like you said, the mistakes were correctable, and I believe that. I think they are correctable. And again, like you said, it's so much easier to correct things when you're working with a W than with an L. And they rose up at the end. And I have to say, I was very nervous when Cal gets the ball on the 7-yard line with one drive left. I looked at both of you and both you and Sean. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. 95-yard drive against Ohio State, bad. 94-yard drive against Marshall, bad. Are you kidding me? A 93-yard drive? Is that where we're going with this? Like and then it almost came to fruition. One less of a hop on that Hail Mary, and it was a completed 94-yard or 93-yard drive. I would have lost myself. You know what I mean? And so they rose up when they had to. They got picks, they got fumble returns, they all got called back. And so it was definitely frustrating at times, but they did what they needed to do at the end, and I'll take the win.
Here was the thing I'm going to fuss about the most today. And we're going to talk a lot of good stuff because again, they got to win, guys, and winning is the key here, right? And to me, the problem I had today is take Pine away, because Pine's first career start and all that. Take Pine away, and we'll talk about him specifically later. The problem that I had is so much of what happened today that was negative was coming from veterans.
Yeah.
Your team captain, Jarrett Patterson, whiffs on a Mike fire on the first drive of the game, then gets a false start. I believe, again, it was on third down, but to go to it again. So you're in 3rd and 9, and then you get 2 false starts in a row. You have a senior, your starting center gets a false start. You're facing 3rd and 1. Your 5th-year senior wide receiver gets a false start. How does a wide receiver get a false start in 3rd and 1? Lorenzo Styles is not a veteran, so we'll talk about his mistake later. You've got J.D. Bertrand, a senior returning starter, gets a stupid penalty late in the game. I mean, the guy clearly was bringing his hands. You knew he wasn't getting the ball,
and it was way
overhead. It was unnecessary and just dumb. Cam Hart blows a coverage early in the game, and I'll have a criticism of Coach Freeman, and I think today we saw some of his head coach youthfulness pop up in a couple of situations during the game. But if you look at Isaiah Foskey losing contain, there was a DJ Brown with the personal foul at the end of the game. This wasn't young guys making mistakes.
Right.
These were veterans making mistakes. And that's the one continuation of what we've seen in each of the first 3 games. That's very troublesome to me, and something that Coach Freeman needs to look and kind of look at and say, why are our veterans the one you're going to, Tobias Merriweather played a little bit today, but you're not going to play him a whole lot, not throw him the ball because, you don't trust him. So you can't trust him to not jump off sides on 3rd and 1. or false start. You can't trust him to not run a route. You can't trust him to whiff on 3 blocks like Joe Wilkins Jr. did today, just whiffing on blocks. If he makes a block on the swing screen to Chris Tyree,
gone.
It's at least 10 yards.
House.
And so that's that's a big problem for me, fellas, is when you talk about people say undisciplined. Like, okay, if Blake Fisher had 3 false starts and Joe Alt had some false starts and holds, and your young guys are out there making mistakes. Audric Estime's leaning forward and getting defensively, Benjamin Morrison's getting called for holds and personal fouls. It's like, okay, they're young guys are doing dumb things. These were veterans, fellas. And I think that's one concern that I have. On the flip side, and I want to get everybody's thoughts on this. We have been very frustrated, big picture, of the fact that Notre Dame's best players were not making plays. And in the second half of this game, Notre Dame's dudes stepped up and played like dudes for the most part. And I think that was another good sign for me. Sean, how are you, man?
How you guys doing today, man?
Good.
Was it better than a week ago?
Was it tougher on you in person than it was for us by TV?
No, I mean, I just kind of assumed that things were not going to go well. So I was pleasantly surprised they did, So I was like, well, they're going to give up a score here. Like, there was how many times, Vince, in this game did I look at you like, well, this is about to happen. And that's exactly, they're about to run outside zone here for a big play. And there's a play they got out leverage, and I just assumed bad stuff was going to happen. So when it didn't happen, I was like, all right, cool.
Well, it was funny because it was the 4th down on that last drive, and you're like, if he scrambles for a first down here, he's like, I'm done. And he scrambles for a first down. And
no, I said I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. That's what it was. And I look at you, I'm like, are you going? Because I would be if I were you. Like, that was.
I thought about it.
Like, are you kidding me right now?
From your vantage point, did it look like the Cal receiver caught that Hail Mary?
No.
Okay.
It did to me. So. I thought the kid on the ground caught it, and then that referee came in and was like, no. But I thought.
And if he did catch it, fine, because there had 2 other catches that set up scores in that game that neither of them were catches.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was
super frustrating.
That was my one critique of Coach Freeman, where we saw his lack of head coaching experience hurt him. Lesson learned. He's got to call. You don't beg the officials for that, and when you see that they're not going to give it to you, you got to call timeout. And have that reviewed.
Do you think he didn't because he was upset? Because remember, he was ticked off because the defense had to waste a timeout.
Well, he was actually yelling at. We saw him. He was yelling at the official that he didn't. He was yelling at the official to review it. So I'm looking at Coach Freeman on the first one, Sean, not the second one. He never got to the point where he was reviewing because the second one they just kind of went. The second one looked like a catch, and I didn't see until after the review that it wasn't a catch.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the replay crew sucked. But the first one, we're watching him. Vince and I are watching him, and he's yelling at the official, like pointing to, you got to review that. So he wasn't yelling at his team; he was yelling at the official. He's got to do that right away. He's got to give a timeout. But again, that's part of the learning experience that you'll hear, because hey, you have control over that now, right? Like, you don't have to wait for the head coach to do that. You are the head coach,
right? And we talked about the fact that whoever the spotter is for Notre Dame, that's supposed to be like, hey, we need to call timeout, review this or whatever. He's fired.
Yeah.
Like
whoever your defensive spotter is or review spotter is, they're done.
He's looking for different work at this point.
Yeah, you're getting moved to a different office that doesn't require you to make quick decisions. But I think today, guys, one thing else, we saw a team that had to handle some adversity today at different times, and I thought they handled it well and got the win. So let's first talk offense. Fellas, I want to go into the offense. And Ryan, I'm going to let you start because you started to bring this up. It's one of the things I wrote about. It was not executed very well, but other than get Tobias Merriweather the football, Tommy Rees did everything that we asked him to do this week from a game plan and play calling standpoint.
I thought so. I mean, again, before I got cut out before, it's something where you could tell that the game plan early on was, let's get Drew Pine comfortable, which is what the game plan should have been early on, was let's get Drew Pine comfortable. Surprisingly, Brian, they had a lot more success running the ball inside without kind of softening those edges comparatively to I was talking the other day, right? Like, I thought they were going to have to kind of hit the corners a little bit and then soften the middle, but they really, when they flipped the scripts.
I think they did, though, Ryan, because now they didn't hit throws, but early in the game, they were hitting the slides, they were hitting the outside throws, stuff was there outside, and I think Cal reacted to that early on, which then opened up some of the stuff for Chris Tyree.
Yeah,
But
I
yes,
just thought early on you were going to kind of see some outside zones, some jet sweep, something, just some outside action, some just some buck sweep, whatever, something that was just going to kind of soften those quarters. But I mean, give the offensive line some credit, man. I thought I mean, there was improvement that needs to happen. Obviously, there's always improvement that needs to happen for offensive line, but they played a much tougher game, right? Like they competed, they got physical with them. I mean, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But I really thought that they kind of played with a little bit of a pissed off demeanor today, which was nice to see. When they kind of had their back against the wall and they knew that the passing game was probably not going to be the bread and butter today, they were like, okay, we need to get downhill and go after these guys. And I felt like they had success in there. And I thought Tyrese did going to do a good job mixing in the slides and the screens and some easy stuff to try to get Drew comfortable. It's just, there's some limitations with Drew in the game. I mean, let's call it what it is.
Here's basically what his several first and second down plays were. You know, you had a bootleg on the first play of the game where Lorenzo Styles is open and he just throws it into the ground. Next play, he runs a little slip screen to Chris Tyree, which I didn't think those screens were going to work against Cal, and they did. So kudos to them. And they did some stuff motion and movement wise to kind of keep. One thing they did a great job of, Ryan, which we talked about yesterday, was they did a lot to mess with the eye discipline of the linebacker. Shovels. They did run some shovels. They ran a couple to Braden Lindsey that got positive yards. Second drive, I forget what they did on the first play. They went outside and something bad happened on the first play. It was inside zone or off tackle. They got -2, so that didn't work. Then they ran a quick throw outside, then a swing route to Audric Estime.
Right.
Then drive 3, they ran a boot with a slide to Michael Mayer that he threw into the ground. Another perimeter play. Next play counter. Then they had a seam throw on 3rd and 9, and Michael Mayer's wide open, and Drew just sails it. And then you go to exactly. Then you go your next series is when you kind of started getting into some situations where they started putting it a little bit more in between the tackles. But I thought they did a nice job of using 11 and 21 personnel early, which did spread Cal out and force Cal to go to more nickel, which I think Ryan opened up some of that inside run stuff. And then as they wore him down, so it was really interesting. First half, Audric had 1 carry for 6 yards. That's it, 1 carry. He had 1 catch for 7 yards. And then Chris Tyree gets a lot of the touches. He had 33 rushing yards, 35 passing yards, which is what we said we wanted to see. And then the second half, they used Tyree to then set up Estime. And then Estime had a bulk of the carries in the second half. So I thought the way that they used the 2 backs today was really smart. And I'm going to say this, 2 best play calls of the day today, both involved using the other running back to set up the other running back. And they were 2 huge game-changing plays. First one was the first touchdown pass to Chris Tyree. They're in 21 personnel. They had Tyree on the left, and he was cheated up a little bit. And then right before the snap, they sent Audric Estime to that side on like that boom motion where he sprints outside. That forced that field safety, I think it was Daniel Scott, Ryan, has to come downhill, and that leaves Tyree now as the number 4 receiver to that side in an ISO against the linebacker and no chance for a touchdown. And then the second half, they had Tyree or Estime to the left and then put Chris Tyree out in the trips and then ran that angle route. And that was the best ball Drew threw all day. He just fit that sucker in there. Estime catches it. And it looked like he was ready to try to run somebody over, but just got too ahead of himself and fell down.
That was great.
Those
That's funny.
balls we have not seen that kind of creativity all year. Like this looked like, from a play calling standpoint, October, November of 2021 Tommy Rees. And I had to ask myself, pardon my language, but where the hell was this the first 2 games? Because this was what we thought Tommy Rees was going to be. And imagine what it would look like if Drew actually executed the stuff in the first half today.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the game plan was really good. And he called a game plan that suits, at the very least, it suits Drew Pine today on September 17th.
Sure.
Okay. I think Drew is going to get better as time goes on. I think
you mean they're just not who they are in game 3, Vince?
No, especially when it's a first-time starter, right? At quarterback.
Joke. Him and I listened to the press conference afterward.
Oh my gosh. Terrible question. But anyway, so I will give Tommy Rees, look, we banged him for the last 2 weeks on his but we have to be fair, and that his game plan was actually really good. And I thought that he was bringing along Drew Pine very, very well, even at the beginning when Drew wasn't executing. Now, he laid into him when he wasn't executing, and
He should have.
laid into
should
him.
have.
I have no problem with that. No problem with that. People are like, oh, they're going to show him yelling at him and using the F word. It's football.
Okay, I mean, sure.
Get over it, man. Like, I'm sorry. He needed to get his butt chewed.
If I'm Jack Swarbrick, though, somebody else is getting their butt chewed this week, and it's somebody from NBC.
Exactly. Like, you see Drew on the phone, you can tell he's getting yelled at. Let's not put Tommy on camera, okay?
Right.
But anyway, I was very impressed with the game plan, and I was also impressed with the adjustments at halftime because they realized, and granted, the O-line responded by kicking some tail, but 3 drives, 3 scores. You know, they're running it down their throat, and they're asking Drew to just throw some short stuff, you know, not necessarily push the ball deep. They don't need to do that. That's not where he was today. Now, moving forward, somebody was talking about, I just don't understand why they're not doing play action. I get that. And eventually, I think that they will get to that. But
they don't respect your run.
Right, exactly. 100%. So I was totally fine with the game plan. I looked at you at one point, and I was like, hey, get ready for 12 straight runs, you know, on this drive. And you're like, I'm cool with that as long as they put it into the end zone. I said, me too. And boom, 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 boom. They put it in the end zone after that. So I was cool with the way things went, and the kids executed it in the second half, and that's even bigger.
Right.
Brian, you know what else I really liked was, you already mentioned it a little bit, but Daniel Scott, I thought, had an argument to being the best defensive player for Cal. I thought they made him pretty uncomfortable in a lot of in this game, man. Like, they got him in a lot of man-to-man coverage. I mean, even a couple balls that you saw to Michael Mayer that were competed, like you mentioned, the little seam ball where he kind of had the outside fake and then going up the seam. They made him look pretty bad. The angle route to Estime, right? Kind of working in man coverage. He's more a kid that wants to kind of work from depth and he wants zone.
He's their run guy.
Yes.
That's the thing. They put him in situations where he had to focus on the pass, which then took him out of run defense. And that was a really good usage of personnel. And the other thing, we didn't see a ton of 12 personnel in the first half, a lot of 11 and 21 spreading the field. Then the second half, they came out a little bit 11 and 21 and then moved the chains. Once they got that personal foul. I mean, so Notre Dame caught a couple of breaks today too, right? You got a personal foul on 3rd and 4. You had the offsides on the field goal, right? Dude, I'll take what I'll say that's a trade-off for the no calls they had on the other ones, you know? And so, you know, to me, guys, I thought once they started to get some lean, then you saw, you started to see Notre Dame then go 12-13 and really lean on Cal, and that's where they were able to kind of really put the game, really get things going on offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. Sean, I want to get your opinion on first half versus second half as far as kind of how the offense was working and things like that. What were your takeaways kind of first half versus second half?
Well, my theme for this week was pretty much this game is not about Cal. This is about Notre Dame. If Notre Dame shows up, they should win this game. And if 100%. They play up to their capabilities, they don't have to play a perfect game. Just play a semblance of your game and you'll win this game. I thought they would win it comfortably. If they showed up in the first quarter, they probably would have won it comfortably offensively.
Agreed.
I mean, there are some things to take away from it. The first half for me was simply about, you know what? I take that back. I was about to say something, and this is what I want to say. And I think Brian mentioned it. I'm extremely pleased with what I saw in the first half because the thing that stood out the most is that this team had every right to start pouting and fold after that start in the first quarter. Every right to feel like, here we go. Here we go again. And the leaders stepped forward and said, no, not today. They did. They stepped forward and said, not today. And they got better. In my opinion, their second quarter was better than the first. I thought the third quarter was better than the second. You know, I didn't like that drive in the third quarter right after you take the lead. Like, you have to shut them down. You just wore them out. You have to get that tired defense right back on the field and wear their butts out again and go up double digits. But the defense comes away. They can't third down because they got pressure pretty much from the edge all day. Yeah. So I don't know what they have to talk about and what Al Washington has to do with his interior rushman not to give those lanes, and then the linebackers being so far down the field in coverage that nobody's reacting to a scrambling quarterback. Hopefully they'll solve that. before they face North
Hey,
Carolina.
Sean, can I ask you a question? Because you saw it on the TV copy. I'm going to go back and watch it. I watched a lot of the secondary at the game and then watched the line play a little bit afterwards. Did you feel it was the interior guys or were the edge guys kind of getting too wide? What did you think was – because I thought sometimes it was a little bit of both.
This is interesting because I remember after the last week, I was talking to Ryan and I said, yo, does it seem like Foskey and the edge guys are kind of being held back? They're not firing off like I would expect them to fire off and turn in the corner. Mm-hmm. And today they looked like they were being fired out of a rocket, turning the corner and coming after the quarterback. And maybe it was a sense of they were finally taking off the leash. And a couple of times they went a little bit too far in their depth in their rush and allowed the quarterback to get up. But there were just too many lanes, and the interior guys didn't react enough and shadow enough, in my opinion, that when he was forced to step up in the pocket to be able to react and at least trip him up or hold him to a short gain. But then, where are your linebackers? I don't know if were they in man-to-man coverage on those plays?
Some of them, yes, but others, the linebackers just showed no route.
I know. I had a problem with Maris Leofow in one of those.
Yeah.
It's like you're supposed to blow that little running back up. You're coming out there, they blow him up. Blow him up. You don't stop your feet and dance with them, blow up and make the tackle. Like, what are you doing? So those are some of the things that you work on and you improve. But Vince, look, I thought they got better as the game went on.
Yeah.
And especially in the trenches, I thought that defensive line responded in the fourth quarter multiple times when they were put to the test.
Yeah.
Starting with, look, let me tell you something, man. And Ryan, you would love this. I don't know what got into Jacob Lacey this week, but he must have been watching film on Aaron Donald this week because he was coming with swim moves, spin moves, counters, everything he had in his arsenal. Maybe you want to blame Foskey's slow start and blame Al Washington for that. You got to give Al Washington some credit for what you saw from
his boys played today. I mean, look, they didn't execute perfectly. They played today. I want to before we go fully into the defense, I do want to go back to the offense because there's a couple things that really bothered me today that I want to talk about. The blocking of the Notre Dame wide receivers today, especially Joe Wilkins Jr., was brutal.
Was it that bad?
It was brutal.
He was he was running up and just kind of maybe trying to drop a shoulder in an open field blocking situation. Like that will never work.
It was not good. It was not good. And then, like Lorenzo dropping that cross, like they were in a funk today. And then Braden Lindsey, like I don't fault the drop on him. That was a bad ball. He actually did it. I thought he did a good job of not letting it get picked off. The one incompletion Drew had. But dude, you're a fifth-year senior, man. You cannot get a false start on the 3rd and 1. No. You just can't. I mean, it was like Jared Patterson, dude. You're a captain. Was it on 3rd down again today, Vince? When he got that 3rd down? He's now 2 weeks in a row. You're in the other team side of the field, and your senior 5th-year senior captain who's slamming his helmet down and ripping his jersey off is giving up a false start. Now, what I'll say is watching Jarrett Patterson struggle as a blocker today, from what I saw, I'll say again, he shouldn't be out there. Right? They rushed him too much. Because he just doesn't seem to have any drive off his feet, guys. Like, and that's now I'm going to go back and watch the film. Maybe he played better in some other snaps where I saw him play, but I saw him stalemating a lot today. What I thought that the line did a good job of, though, is I thought they moved their feet really well today. And Sean, I don't know if you noticed that, or Ryan, if you guys noticed that watching it on TV, but I really felt the drive from the line against a big physical Cal front 7. I thought was one of the highlights of the game. Because, Ryan, the one thing you and I said that we didn't think they could do was just come out and push this Cal team around. And I wouldn't say it was like a vintage Notre Dame ground attack. I mean, they finished with 160-some rushing yards or something like that, right? But it was definitely a much improved physicality where you feel like you now have something to build on for future weeks. I don't know if you guys felt the same, the guys watching it on TV, Sean and Ryan.
Well, I would say this, Brian. I mean, when you consider the fact that Notre Dame did not have the threat of the pass, I thought the offensive line got tremendous push.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very one-dimensional approach, especially in the second half, right? Like, people knew you were running the football. Vince, what did you say?
Sure.
You were like, at one point, like, we're going to run the ball 12 times in a row, right? Like, that's how it felt.
Yes.
And the defense
And they
knew
kind
that.
of did, because the only passes were like little slide routes, Ryan. You know what I mean? Like, they ran
Which
a
is
couple like
basically
little
runs.
Which
I mean,
Vince took. He's like, look, they threw it behind the line. That counts as a run.
I have to be right. I'm wrong.
Please
I'm wrong all
continue,
the time
Ryan.
at home. I need to at
Please
least be right.
continue,
sometimes.
Ryan. So sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it was just the whole point, basically, Brian, is the fact that, like, you knew what was coming, and Notre Dame still had enough physicality and enough kind of want to in the run game to get a lot of push. And I felt like early on, the interior offensive line had a rough start again, right? But I feel like in the second half, when you were letting them get downhill, drive, be physical, I felt like they really had a lot of improvements today in the second half.
And I felt also, guys, that every time they got into a short yardage situation, they pushed them.
Yep.
They did. They pushed them. You know, again, it wasn't perfect. You had a guy shoot through on Audric Estime's touchdown run. He had to leap over the guy. But I thought overall, it was – did the offensive line play great today? No. Because of what the standard that we have for what great offensive line plays in Notre Dame. Did they play a lot better? Yes. And they played hard. And I really thought this was going to be a long day on the first drive. When they just let that Mike Fire come through, they literally rushed 4 guys and just let a guy run through untouched.
Right.
I was like,
and it wasn't even
again.
Like,
But for the most part, the pass pro the rest of the game was really good. Like, really good, I thought. And to the point where Pine was able to step up, and Pine had his own scramble plays today because they weren't able to get off the Notre Dame blockers to get to him.
Right.
So I thought the offensive line played a really good game. Not great game. Great compared to what they did the first 2 weeks.
Granted, yes. Absolutely.
But not great for what the standard is. I thought Blake Fisher played better today. That was a big one for me. I wanted to see how Blake responded to really a bad game last week, and I thought he responded well.
Well, and there was a point in the game where the offensive line pushed the defensive front for Cal like 5 yards upfield on an obvious run play, and Chris Tyree just kind of ran into the back of the line and picked up 5 yards. I mean, it was
just followed him.
It was just because they moved the line of scrimmage. And you know what? And maybe that's just a small example, but at the same time, we haven't seen that in forever, it feels like. Just consistently moving the line of scrimmage. And so that was very nice to see. And I will also say, when they were in 13 personnel towards the end of the game, one of their final drives, and they were only be able to pick up 1 yard. I was hoping
I did
a little more there, but you know, that's
Sean,
just me.
Sean, and I want to, because Vince and I talked about this. Sean and Ryan, I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. I know that it's the safe play and you have a lead, but I just kind of feel like the way this team has played, I wanted to see them just run the offense there and and go punch it. And maybe that's just me like needing a statement, but I just felt like you were going to leave Cal with a little bit too much time at that point in time. Like they're only up a score. And without getting a first down, there was no way you could run the clock down enough to where Cal doesn't have a chance to go 90 yards.
Because they had 2 timeouts going into that drive, and Notre Dame got the ball in about 3 minutes.
Now, I'm not saying take shots, but keep doing what you're doing. You know, run the slides, get out of the pocket, do that kind of stuff. Just keep running your offense. I did not like them just kind of 13 personnel, run it right up the middle with Cal basically in a bunched alignment. And they could have ran a bootleg on that series, and Pine could have walked for 15 yards for a first down. That's something I really didn't like in that game.
Well, I would think you would never want to give me the controller then, Brian, because I'm always going for it. I'm always going to put points on the board.
No, I'll give you the control if that's the case, man.
I don't care about wasting your timeouts or making you use your timeouts. But no, I understood the first down run because they only have 1 timeout left.
Sure.
So you go ahead and make them use that timeout. Coming back from that, I did say here's a chance, depending upon the look they give you, to go play action, bootleg, maybe come across with somebody on a crossing route or come across again with Lorenzo that was working for the majority of the day and give them the opportunity to get the first down. And then the safety comes down on the 3rd down play, and I see them playing Lindsey bump and run, and I'm like, oh, my God. They have to take this shot, right? But then, of course, you're like, they're trying to run it out. At that point, I understood. Because at that point, they just wanted to get the W, and they want to do
Mhm.
everything to try and give them the best chance
Which I understand. I
to
do.
that.
I do.
But I'm with you. You know, if you're going to make that decision, you make that decision early and say,
Sure.
okay, we're going to go with a safe pass here to see if we can pick up 5 or 6 yards and still force them to use a timeout. And now we're 2nd and 4 and have 2 downs to get 4 yards and pretty much end this game. So a first down probably would have been the time to go play action in that series. And I agree with you. I think they were hovering around, 4 yards per carry before those last 3 runs, something like that.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
So, yeah, great job with the offensive line. I know one thing. The engagement between Blake Fisher and Harry Heastand today on TV was really fun to see.
Okay. Can you, because we don't watch the TV copy, Sean, so
Yeah.
could you explain
Yeah.
kind of
So,
what you saw?
I know they came off the field after the touchdown series, and they showed Harry was sitting down talking to the entire group, but Blake was so engaged. He was talking back to Harry.
Okay.
Then they were in a huddle.
Talking back meaning just communicating?
Yeah,
Okay.
like asking questions. And then they were standing there in the huddle during a timeout in the second half. And he said something to Harry, and Harry turns to him, and you see Blake like use his hands to like illustrate something like from a technique standpoint. And I'm like, okay, I like this. The young man is engaged, like whatever needed to click between him and Harry is happened. And now he's like, okay, I'm thirsty. I want more. And they're moving forward. I like the progress, especially with a defensive line that they're going to face next week that is porous. I'm not going to say they're on the same level as Cal, but you can get if you want to line up and run the ball against North Carolina, you can. You flat out can. So
they're not in the same stratosphere as Cal defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, their defense is abysmal.
Yeah. So if you can be physical, you can be physical. Also, I will say this, it's not a good thing to have your 2 running backs as your leading receivers on the day. That has to change next week, in my opinion. We can't have that. My question to you guys, because most people will look, Drew had all day, and I'm like, wait a minute, are the receivers not open, or is he just unwilling to pull
a lot of times unwilling to throw? Like they ran a play early where they ran like an angle route, and I'm not sure if it was a tight end or receiver. It was coming over on an end cut, and he's open. I mean, he just wouldn't pull the trigger. Now, they weren't running – they didn't hardly run any deep shots today. Like, it was clear every deep shot was just a clear out. I mean, they were not going to let Drew throw the ball deep, which, okay, whatever. It is what it is. But, you know, we'll address that later in the week. But there were several times – and again, I won't say a bunch. There were several times where that was the case. But there was also times, guys, where I pointed to Vince. I was like, are they even trying to get the ball here? Like, there was one play where Mayer releases on a vertical route and Styles running across. I'm like, they're running half speed. Like they were jogging. And I don't mean running slow. They were slow. They were just coming off like half, you know what? And I was like, what is going on? So I didn't think the receivers were super locked in today, to be completely honest with you. I really didn't. And I thought Lindsey played with the most fire. Lorenzo didn't look right early, but I thought he settled in and started playing better. You know, he's got to just compete for the ball a little bit more, but he settled in, you know, made a couple plays there, but the receivers didn't look right today to me. They did not look great. And I'm going to say something right now. We talk about freshmen need to play. After watching the red zone goal line 13 personnel blocking, 9 needs to be their second tight end at this point in time.
Yes. I saw that.
It's not even close.
Yes.
It's not even close of who's a better blocker between him and Kevin Bauman. It's not even close.
And that was like a concern with Eli Raritan, you know, like a little bit. It's like he's like a tall, slender guy that's kind of filling out his frame, and he has great effort as a run blocker, and he's a good athlete, right? So, like, what's holding him back at this point? There's really nothing holding him back.
I mean, I think maybe like he doesn't know the whole offense or whatever, but like
seniority, sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's their best blocking tight end right now. I mean, Michael Mayer again today was just out there in the run game, from what I could tell. You know, but so offensively, guys, a lot to clean up. But I thought they mixed up their personnel much better today. I loved the movement that they used. We saw Tommy Rees finally getting guys in isolations and doing things to ISO certain players. If they can build on this, I think the offense will get better, because some of the stuff they missed today, and Drew hit here's the thing, encouraging thing. The throws that Drew just flat whiffed on in the first half, he hit in the second half. The quick stuff.
Yeah.
Now he's got to be willing to pull the trigger down the field.
Yes.
Like that's the thing he's going to have to do next. But it was enough for today to get it done.
Yeah.
Let's move.
I was just going to say, Brian, I think for me, like the offense, there were some good things to take away from it, but there is massive improvements that need to happen in the passing game because I think the question is going to be like, how sustainable is that offense that you ran that you won with today?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and Freeman said that after the game, he was very clear, like, this is what we had to do today. Right. And I don't think that they thought the way that they called pass plays, I don't think they thought they were going to get a lot of time to throw the ball today.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, Ryan, it was clear that they saw what you and I saw, which I was encouraged by because I don't think they saw it the first 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. They saw we can out leverage and outrun Cal to the perimeter.
Yeah,
and they did a lot of that today in different ways. The shovel jet sweep type thing off the shovel. They did it off of the slide routes, the under routes, the swing. I mean, they did a lot of things to out leverage or to outrun Cal to the perimeter, which I also think helped open up some of the because Tyree, some of his best runs in the first half were, cutbacks. He had some really nice cutbacks today. Now, I think the line still has to get a little bit better of initial push early in the game. They weren't getting as much of a good push early as they did in the second half, but they were better. I think that's going to have to be. It's going to have. You can't. It's not sustainable when you're playing teams. Because look, first of all, there's several teams that you're going to play from here on out that 24 points isn't going to be good enough to win.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So.
Not the next game. The next game.
Not your next two, most likely. Although BYU didn't look super hot today, apparently. I just saw the final score today.
Last note: Audric Estime does not look like a fun person to tackle.
No,
I'll just leave that at that.
He was ready to destroy someone on that long pass. That's what happened on that throw.
Yeah, it was like he was loading up, and he's like, "Oop."
"Oh yeah."
His mind got in front of his feet on that one.
Yeah, he was like, he looked as like, "There's dudes between me and the end zone. I'm running someone out of the stadium," and he just kind of, got ahead of himself. But he was looking. He had bad intentions, fellas, on that particular play when he saw the end zone, and I got to tell you, it wasn't sexy. But I'm going to repeat, I liked how physical they were in short yardage goal line today. I do. And I also like that they were willing to throw the ball in inside the 10 as well. I thought that was great because I thought once they had that long pass to estimate they're going to go right back to the run, and they didn't. They spread them out again and went and got an ISO for Mayer. I thought, and what a route by Mayer on that slant though. Oh my!
He had a couple. He had a couple of those, man.
He ran really good routes today, fellas.
Yeah,
he just didn't get the ball.
Look, he just didn't get the ball. As bad of a blocker he is, he's that much better as a pass catcher and route runner. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like just different stratospheres.
Yeah.
The dude doesn't want to block. Like that's the way I see it, because blocking is you have to want to be a good blocker. And it worries me about, for him personally, it worries me for like his future and being drafted in the NFL, because they're not just going to keep him spread out all the time. They're going to need him to block. And, Notre Dame can spread him out as much as they want. But man, is his blocking struggling. It's just not good at all. But boy, can he is a matchup nightmare in the pass game though. And
that move he put on the safety in the first half was sweet.
Yes, it was.
Oh, he set him up nicely to the
Pine overthrew him. You mean?
Yeah. Beautiful. He is a ridiculously flexible guy for as big as he is, man. Like he can get in and out of breaks so well. It's incredible.
Yeah. Guys, let's transition to the defense because this is the interesting side of the ball. This is the side that to me had some of the what are you doing plays today?
Can we start with linebackers, please?
Yeah, and some of the like you're okay. This is what we thought we were going to see. Yeah. We hammered the mess out of the Notre Dame defensive line the last 2 weeks. Really, they were good in the first half. They took the second half over. Mm-hmm. Absolutely took the second half of the game over. And yes, there were some mistakes, Sean. And you mentioned the D line with the contained stuff. Got to get off some of those blocks to get to the quarterback. There's some structural problems there that clearly are issues, in my opinion. But here's the thing that I will say: when they flat out in the second half said we are going to dominate you at the point of attack. They played hard, they were physical, and I'll say that in my opinion, and you guys tell me if you disagree with my statement or not. The best position group on the Notre Dame team today was the interior defensive linemen, all of them.
Yep.
Chris Smith, there was a play where Chris Smith just came off, took a guard, and just I think it was Lovell. I think it was the right guard who's 330 pounds, took him with his left arm and just shoved him into the backfield with one arm. And then Jacob Lacey was a man today. Howard Cross was steady. Jason Adamiola looked like vintage Jason Adamiola when they allowed him to penetrate. There was a couple times still you'd see him get knocked back because they were asking him to kind of take on blocks. But when they turned those guys loose, the interior of the defensive line today, fellas, dominated the Cal interior. I mean, dominated. That was as good of a unit wide, depth chart wide, like no matter who went in the field performance. And Lacey's going to get a lot of the attention, rightfully so, because that spin move he put on the second sack was disgusting. That was excellent. But the entire interior was tremendous today, and that played a big role in the success of this defensive football team today, fellas.
Well, I would say this, Brian. I mean, you want to talk about sick? Jason Adamilola's sack where he kind of hit that little inside move. I was like, oh, buddy, that's some good stuff, man. I know he's been practicing that stuff in the offseason, so it was nice to see. I agree with you. I don't push back at all. I think the interior defensive line played really well. And we're going to get to the linebackers, which was the exact opposite. But I even thought the interior defensive line did a good job of just taking up blocks too, because I thought the linebackers had all day to run. It was just not good on that second level. But yeah, I agree with you. The interior defensive line was fantastic. Sean, I'm fired up, man. I am very critical of linebacker play, my friend, and this was not great. It was not great.
Can we not go there yet? Can we just enjoy the defensive line talk for just another minute? Because this is going to get ugly when we get there.
He did that so sly. It's like,
he did.
Let me use the D-line to get to who I really want to talk about.
I'll tell you who had a good game today from what I saw. Now I'm going to go watch the film, and this is why we have tomorrow's upon further review. But I noticed Nana really flashing as a run setter in this game. Him and Aaronsberger both. Riley Mills had a couple of them as well, but Nana had a couple really stout edge sets, including one where he got held. I mean, he beat the guy so bad he had to get held. I thought Nana had a really nice game today from what I saw. I don't know if you guys saw the same thing. And it was nice to see. Look, Isaiah Foskey has got to kind of, he's got to kind of get back to, he's going to need more than one move. But I'd rather see him doing what he did today with the one move than trying to use 18 moves like he's last 2 weeks and not do anything. This was Isaiah Foskey from last year. Yes. And he set the edge well today, I thought, for the most part in the run game. But when he came off and said, I'm coming at you, they had no answer. There was nothing that the Cal tackles could do about it, especially in the second half, fellas. Nothing.
He picked on both tackles. It wasn't just like the left side. He picked I'm going to get you to this now. Let me go to the other side and give him some. It was like he was fantastic. Like, that's the guy that was projected to possibly be a first-round pick. You're like, thank you for showing up. Thank you. If we had that week 1 and week 2, we're probably 2-1 at worst, maybe 3-0. And you were waiting for him to come and dominate like he can. But I'm with you, Brian. The work and the depth of the interior of that defensive line is something that myself and Vince saw in practices. Like, they're deeper there than we thought. When you start to look at the depth chart, and you're right, they've raved about the strength of Chris Smith. And how strong he is. The coach.
Those guards at Cal are not little dudes.
They're big boys.
Like, they're 315, 330. Those are big kids, and he was manhandling them today at the point of attack.
And Sean, you were talking about the offensive tackle play. I mean, did you see Brian Driscoll, man? It was a turnstile.
He was terrible today. If he spelled his dang name right, he'd be a better football player.
He's a turnstile. That was great. It was awesome. Awesome.
The weak link was Brian Driscoll, if I do say so myself.
You didn't get Ryan.
Remember that conversation we had today before the show? That's
done.
That's done. So you can let your wife know you ruined that one. So there you go.
Don't take it out of my wife.
But Driscoll, who spells his name right, last week dominated Notre Dame's defensive line. So
you basically, Brian, you were so insightful and intelligent. You basically wrote the game plan from this week, and it worked. So
okay. I don't like the sarcasm
There's
that
no
you're saying in that
sarcasm.
statement.
All right,
But
I'm
yes,
done.
correct.
I'm
if
done.
you look at the
I'm
keys
done.
to the game, it's like they did what we said to do.
That's
and
what
it
I
worked.
wasn't being sarcastic.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
mute myself.
That's probably good.
He's putting himself in the corner.
He's smart. Like, you know
5-minute
what? I'm
timeout.
gonna put myself in a timeout.
5-minute timeout.
Vince, Brian, the second half touchdown drive that they gave up and the run they gave up, the big run on that drive, I believe, was that after a timeout? Wasn't that run after a timeout, if I'm not
I
mistaken?
think so. I'm looking at
They went
I'm
to
looking
kind
for
of
it
like
now.
a bare front on that play, but it looked like from a TV vantage point that they were shaded away from the strength of the formation and got out leveraged on that play.
So yeah, okay.
I know
Yes, the play you're talking
Freeman
about,
was on
Yeah.
Kaiser because he told him you got to scrape over the top.
Kaiser
of
had a horrible run fit on that. So Vince,
Yeah.
I actually said to Vince before. Vince, was that the one I looked at you before the snap and was like, they're out leveraged right now.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
didn't see that
Yes.
they went like they went over like overload to the left of the offense, and the Notre Dame defense never adjusted. So the linebacker, that's on the line. To me, that's on the linebackers. If I'm correct, guys, normally in most defenses, the linebackers see formation strength and then they let guys know. So they didn't make any adjustment. Cal went to it, and Kaiser's scrape over. Vince, that's the one where I rewound and was like, watch Jack Kaiser on this play.
Terrible.
It was bad.
Really
And
bad.
you know, and then you just like, I didn't see that Freeman got on him, but it would
Yeah,
make
he got
sense.
on the sideline. He's told him you got to
Yeah.
scrape
It was a
scrape
terrible
over the
run
top.
fit.
That was the run by
fit.
25, right? Like
Yeah.
Brooks or something.
Yeah.
That's when I texted you, Brian. I was like, that Jack Kaiser.
You were like,
man,
you said, Kaiser, yuck. Yes, that's exactly
Yes.
the play that we're talking about.
That's the
Yes.
play, man. That was
That
just
was bad.
terrible eyes,
That was
terrible
bad.
fit. It was just terrible, man. It was just bad.
Yep. That was also the series where DJ Brown got a personal foul
Yeah.
on
Bad
that play. Yeah.
He had a decent game otherwise too. That was
Yes,
such a
and
dumb
that,
play.
well, that's the frustrating thing with a couple of those guys, right? Like, there's a couple guys today that, like, boy, if you take that really dumb play out of the way, like the guy played pretty well today. You know, it's just like, but that's the stuff you got to clean up. I mean, because it didn't hurt you against Cal, who he said's a decent team, but it'll hurt you more when you're playing teams that are better offensively. You know, Cal's good because they play really good defense. Their offense is not that good. We've said that coming into the game, right? So, you know, you shouldn't have given up. Let's be real, guys. You shouldn't have given up 17 points today to this team.
No,
like,
10 at the
you
most.
gave up fewer than 300 yards. You shut down their run game. Like, think about this. They had – I'm trying to pull up their numbers today. And give me a second to pull up their total numbers here, guys, because I'm trying to print off the final stats here from the game. And Cal finished the game with only 112 rushing yards.
297 total, right?
Correct. And then 34 of the total yards came from their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the 24-yard run. I mean, Jade Knott, who we talked all week about how good he is, he had 33 yards on 13 carries. I mean, they completely shut him down. You take out the quarterback scrambles, and they completely shut them down today. And that was the frustrating thing is, again, it was like, you know, you did a really great job, and then it was that one play, and you kind of let them go on that. And so, and they caught some breaks today. There was a couple times where Notre Dame got in a mismatch schematically where they put Jay Knott outside on a linebacker, and that's the running back, and they ran by him, and Jack Plummer just missed. But I'll say this. To me, I thought that schematically, I liked what they did today. There was a couple things you're just like, you know, I would have done something different there. But I think overall, I thought the game plan defensively was good. I thought they were aggressive and not aggressive and like blitzing 6 to 7 guys every time and covered one, but they mixed up their coverages, but their corners were really aggressive, taking away the quick stuff. They forced Jack Plummer to go deep a lot more today than he probably wanted to. Hit a couple, but missed a lot because, as we said yesterday, he's got a very live arm, Ryan, but he's not real accurate down the field, and he missed a couple shots.
No.
And when they did get yards, they made him work for it a little bit in the pass game, you know, for the most part. So I thought we're going to go to the linebackers last, fellas. We're going to skip the linebackers.
Oh, man.
I want to talk about the good stuff today. I thought Cam Hart had 2 bad plays today.
Mm-hmm.
The pass interference, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but if he did, I wouldn't blame him because he bit on it and the guy hit him with a double move, and so he just bangs into the guy. Right.
And
now, I don't think the quarterback would have hit him,
yard.
but Cam doesn't know that. Right.
Right.
And then the touchdown, I thought he came up and got bit up on the outcut, It looked like they were playing a little bit of looked like almost like cover 2, but it just, I don't know, like what he was doing there. I thought he should have stayed deep, and then DJ's got to do a better job of getting off the hash. They weren't lined up yet because they were still like looking at Freeman yelling to, and that's the other thing that's the one where Coach Freeman was like yelling at them to review the play. I think the players were kind of waiting on them to review the play because they knew he didn't catch it. And you can't do that. You got to line up and play. So that was a mistake. But outside of that, I thought that Cam Hart looked a lot quicker and twitchier today than he did last 2 weeks, which tells me the hamstring's finally back to 100%, because he moved differently today, fellas, than he has the first 2 games, in my opinion, and that was a good sign. And did you guys see who started at corner opposite him today?
Yes, I did, because I was sitting next to you and you pointed it out.
Benjamin Morrison.
See if the other guys know.
Yeah, he started today. I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean, the play he got beat deep on, technically he didn't get beat because the guy didn't catch the ball. That was a phenomenal ball by Jack Plummer.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that was just a great ball. But
we'll also say that starting Ben Morrison lit a fire under.
Although, dude, that corner fire, you got to, I felt like the dude from anger management. You got to dunk that. I'm like, you got to sack that. You know what I mean? Like, you got to make that play, man.
I agree.
Like, that's one of the things I love.
Plummer
but you know what? Vince?
He saw him coming, and at the last second, he kind of got out of it. He baited him.
You got to make that play. But you know what? There was a play later in that drive where they tried to beat him on a go route, and I think he was kind of pissed at himself for missing that. He took I don't know if they saw this on TV. He took the receiver
out of bounds
and rode him like 3 yards into the sideline.
Yes,
so it's like, you know what? If you're going to miss a play like that, go make up for it a couple plays later.
Yeah.
You know what? Because every player makes mistakes. We all make mistakes as players, right? Every star is going to make mistakes. But what do you do about it? And on that same drive, Cam was pissed at himself, and he took it out on who? Cal. And that's what you want to see, guys.
Absolutely.
But their corner position all of a sudden looks like one of the strengths of the team right now.
Which is scary.
Because they were really good today. Yeah. They were really good against Ohio State. They were solid against Marshall. The worst corner they've had all year so far was Cam Hart. And he looked more like Cam Hart today. Again, couple mistakes, but he looked a lot more like Cam Hart today. And Clarence Lewis continues to play really good football this year, guys. He really does. They're not beating him deep. And Tariq's been great.
Yep.
My wife got some great shots of Tariq. He was running right at her. Like he finished like this close to her. Like, so she's got some great shots of that. But I thought the secondary, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't see Ramon a lot today, but they need to blitz him more because
can we please can we give Ramon his own /honey badger package that keeps him
here's a thought.
To the line of scrimmage. Like just let him blitz and play around the line of scrimmage. That's his strength.
In serious, Sean, how about you turn the base defense into him as the rover?
I'm cool with that too. Because that's his strength.
Right.
He's the best. He knows how to blitz.
Right.
Like you just see guys just slamming into an offensive lineman. You can tell he waits. Sometimes he'll wait and then he'll see the hole open and then come. And then sometimes he just comes through, but he knows how to blitz.
Second week in a row, he's had a big hit on the quarterback.
Yes, and get to the quarterback. And you have to be able to use that. And you're right. Put him at rover.
Can we say something, Sean? Now, after the 3 games in, it makes a lot more sense why they called that double safety blitz against Ohio State.
Right. Yeah, they just didn't execute it right.
I wouldn't have done it with Tariq out of the game. Wouldn't have done it with Tariq out of the game. But now it makes sense because you see like, okay, all right, I get it because Ramon's a legit weapon. And Brandon Joseph played fast today. He has to finish better at the ball today.
Yeah, he missed a couple of tackles in the backfield.
Yeah, a little out of control on a couple a couple fires and a couple stunts and stuff like that. Yeah, just a little out of control. But man, he flew around today. Houston just flat fell down on the corner route. I just got to keep your feet, man.
And, was that him? Was that him on the corner?
On the corner where Sturdivant dove for it. He knew what was coming. He just slipped and fell.
He fell down. I mean, he was on it out of the break, but he fell down.
Do that because a good ball, he catches it and runs. I mean, if he doesn't make him die for that, he catches it and runs it in for a touchdown. I mean, if Bryce Young's the quarterback on the other side, he hits that guy right out of the break. He catches it in stride. He turns upfield and he scores.
That Sturdivant kid's going to be a player, man. He's going to be a player.
Yeah, he's
going to be a really good player.
He's a good receiver.
Yeah. They get a
what do you guys think about going back to Clarence Lewis, I thought his best play of the day was they went 3 to the right,
3-by-1,
isolated him to the left
Yep.
in the red zone, and they tried to go at him, and he played that very well.
Yeah,
I think
Dude,
that was
Clarence
against
has been-
Sturdivant. I think it was against Sturdivant. It was a nice play.
Sean, I can't think of one time where someone's caught the ball on him with any separation. Like the only catches he's given up this year are stuff where it's just like kind of off coverage and they catch it in front of him. Like, you're giving that up a little bit. Yeah. But like even like CJ Stroud hit a couple of those sideline passes on him. It's like if CJ Stroud doesn't throw absolute money balls on the sideline, it's not complete. I mean, he has been – there was no bigger whipping boy on this defense during the offseason than Clarence Lewis because of how he played in the bowl game last year. He has been steadily good through 3 games. I mean, he has been. And I love the fact that he made a big mistake and he comes back on that same drive and just whips a dude. Right? Isn't that what you want to see? Like what I say, it's like cornerbacks are going to make mistakes, right? They're going to get beat. Well, his was on a different type of play. He comes out the next play and he gets after it. So really been impressed with the Notre Dame secondary. They got some stuff to clean up, but really been impressed with the Notre Dame secondary. And Benjamin Morrison is a dude, fellas. He is a dude.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say on that 3-by-1 set, Sean, if I remember correctly, I think they put a tight end into the boundary too, man. So they put like a little size against Clarence too. And I thought that was one of the best plays I've ever seen Clarence make, man. Like it was a really good play. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just to reiterate that again, like Clarence was playing good ball
in the middle of the field against Sturdivant, where Sturdivant beat him to the inside, but he recovered. Like he didn't give up. He recovered and was able to get there when the ball arrived and knock it down with his right hand. So he's playing really good right now, Brian. You're absolutely right. And I don't know if he heard the noise and it inspired him, or he just locked everything out and went to work.
I'll bet you he heard it and then did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll bet you it's both, Sean. I think he did both. He heard it, but here's the deal about Clarence Lewis. You know, we've said he's the least talented corner they have, just pure physical talent. It's athletic. Let me say, I shouldn't say that. He's the least athletic of all the corners that they have. Mm-hmm. But what I'll say is, the kid just knows how to play football. He plays with an attitude, and he thinks he's better than he is, and he plays like it. And we've seen him really step up his game. And, he's just a guy that plays with a lot of attitude. He really does. And for a kid that got beat the way that he got beat last year a lot, he has really taken a big leap in his game. And it's been 3 straight games now, fellas. It's not like he had a good game today. He was great against Ohio State. Right. He was pretty good against Marshall, and he was really good again today. Yeah. Like everybody else, clean up the mistakes. Don't miss on the corner fire, right? Because you get away with it against Jack Plummer. You're not going to get away with it against, Jaron Hall. And you're not going to get away with it against, whoever Clemson's quarterback is. You're not going to get away with it against Caleb Williams or the postseason. But, man, I love the way the kid bounces back. I mean, he plays with a ton of confidence. This secondary right now, especially the corners, and then like Ramon's got some stuff to clean up. Believe me, there's other things Ramon's got to get better at. Yeah. But they have found a niche for him that he is really good at now. And so I like what I see. I've been wanting to avoid this the whole show, fellas.
Let's do it, man.
Ryan?
You may be the only one. I don't know.
Ryan? Because I just don't want to talk about negativity today, but it's got to be done.
It's got to be done.
The linebacker play was pretty darn good today. No, I'm kidding. It was atrocious, fellas.
Did linebackers play today?
The only time they were effective at all today was when they were called to pressure. Because at least they play hard. Look, it's not that they don't play hard, guys. They're just not good right now. Mm-hmm. And Maris Luafau is a really athletic dude that just constantly, Ryan, and I'm setting you up because of what you texted me today, Ryan. Yep. He just looks lost.
He doesn't know what he's looking at. I mean, Brian, I'll say this. Ready? He's playing like a rover, except that he's playing the will position. Like that's what he looks like to me, right? Like it looks like everything is reacting slowly for him, and he can kind of work from more space, so he has time to make up the ground, right? And second level stuff happens so quick, man. That stuff happens fast. I mean, there's plays where like he's working in pursuit and he's getting contacted 4 to 5 yards down the field. I'm like, you don't know what you're doing, man. You're scraping over the top, and you're not getting any depth toward the line of scrimmage. You are just staying too far away from the line of scrimmage. Like he just doesn't know what he's doing, man. Yeah. JD Bertrand, like everyone's going to hyper focus on the targeting call, right? Everyone's going to hyper focus on it. But the fact of the matter is outside of the targeting call, he was not good today, like at all. It was bad, man. Like the run fits are inconsistent. His eyes are inconsistent, and he has a small tackle radius. So he misses tackles so often. And Jack Kaiser, I mean, we already talked about Jack Kaiser's play, right? That was the only play where I noticed him in at all, if I'm being honest. Like he was just not, I didn't notice him at all the rest of the day, except for the one bad mistake he had, right? So it was bad, man. It was really bad. I'm almost to the point, Brian, and I know this is like this is me like, having a quick assessment here and being quick to the gun. I almost want to move Maris Leufau to Rover, like at this point. Like I just don't know if he's a will, man. Like I just don't know if it happens quick enough, and I don't know. It's just
because
it's very frustrating.
Ryan, this is what Sean, I'll kick it to you.
Mhm.
This is what we were complaining about with Maris in 2020 is runs like a deer, but just doesn't know where he's going. And sometimes you have to wonder, is it just that he's athletic, but not a natural football player? Is he out of position? Like, because the guy just he doesn't make any plays. He doesn't make any plays as a will line. And you can't have a will linebacker that doesn't make plays, guys.
And Sean, I'll kick it to you in a second, but like you even mentioned the play
Brian's
where
fired up about talking
I'm sorry,
like
man. I'm sorry. But Brian, even on the quarterback scramble down the sideline, right?
The angle he
was
took
going
on
to
that
his
was
left.
just dumb.
Maris Leufau is coming over the top, and I'm like, okay, he's there. He attacks the inside shoulder instead of the outside shoulder. I'm like, tack to the sideline. What are we doing here?
Like lane up the sideline. It's like
it's just bad awareness, man. It's bad awareness. It's really bad. Sorry, Sean, but yeah, you can go off too, my friend. But yeah, it's just so frustrating, man.
I think for me, I don't know if you guys saw it. They actually lined him up at end in the fourth quarter a couple of times, and he rushed the passer pretty decently. And I'm like, maybe he's an end. Just let him come off the edge and put him in positions that are beneficial to his skill set.
I think he's a rover, man. Like I think he's a rover. I think he is.
But he needs to play rover, and then they need to be a nickel defense.
Yes. If that's the case, then fine. But look,
I mean, and your fifth-year senior Bo Bauer, Sean. I mean,
his play was the most atrocious to me. Like,
you talking about the run.
How are you letting Jack Plummer pump fake you, dude? What are we doing?
You ever seen the play where Brett Favre pump fakes someone like 10 yards downfield? That's basically what happened on that play, man. It was gross.
Jack Plummer ain't Brett Favre.
No, certainly not.
Attack this man and get him on the ground. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
They are so
Sean, they don't have football
passive.
instinct.
They are so passive.
They don't have football instincts.
Yes. And I don't care. I don't want to hear another word about how smart they are. I don't care.
Gosh.
I don't care how smart they are. Can you play?
Either they're not, Sean, either they're not, or you're asking them to do way too much. One of those two things is true, because they have not only have they not gotten better, guys, I would argue they've regressed each game. Like some of the mistakes they were making today, and like you talk about, like Sean, you talk about Ramon Henderson knowing how to blitz, time up a blitz, how to get skinny, get to a blocker. It's like the linebackers on run stunts. It's like they're taught, hey, find a guy and then run right down the middle of them.
Yep.
Now the effort was there. I don't question their effort or toughness. I mean, Maris crashing into dudes today, but they
all play hard. They all play hard.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. It's just just the nuance of the position is not there right now.
When you pointed out multiple times last week that tackles and linebackers were in the same gap, and I asked both you guys, I was like, well, isn't that on the linebacker to come up and smack the guy on his butt, like, get over here? Yeah, you're in the wrong gap,
right?
And now you mentioned,
or you got, and then you got to run fit off of that. Like it's like linebackers got to make the D lineman right, and safety's got to make the linebackers right. That's how run fits are supposed to happen. You know what I mean? Like that's just. Am I wrong, Ryan? You're a linebacker.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You have to make whoever's in front of you right. Like that's kind of where you work off of them. I mean. Yes, there's a designated gap that a linebacker is responsible for per snap, but like if something goes chaotic, you have to kind of recover. You have space to recover, right? Like that's the whole thing. It's just there. So the first step out of a linebacker stance is called the trigger step, right? You take a 6-inch step up and you read and react. they have some of the slowest triggers that I've ever seen. Like it's bad, man. It makes them look unathletic at times. And it's like, I know Maris Whitefeld is very athletic because then I see him chase the perimeter. I'm like, my dude can run. There's no doubt. It's just for whatever reason, man, it's just not working right now. It's not. And I mean, we talked last week, Brian, about the offensive line needs to be on evaluation period every day, right? Linebacker needs to be the same way this week, man. Like they need to every single day evaluate that position because there are some other talented players. And there's no excuse, man. There's no excuse. You have guys like Marcus Freeman, James Laurinaitis on this staff that have played the linebacker position at a high level. You have a guy like Al Golden who just coached linebackers for the Super Bowl runner-ups. Like there's no excuse for it being this bad right now.
That's why I think, guys, that the part of this is they are putting a way too much on their plates because we are seeing regression from the linebackers. Like they weren't that good last year, but they weren't this bad.
Yeah.
Like they've gotten worse since last year, in my opinion. Maris has gotten worse since 2020, the last time he played.
No doubt.
Like that's the thing for me is like sometimes when you see that, and again, what have I always said, guys? If one guy makes a mistake, he messed up, and you got to coach him up and fix it, right? But when the whole group is doing something and not playing well, then you've got to look in the mirror as a coach first and foremost. Fair.
Right.
What are we doing or not doing that is causing this? And if look, and this is where Marcus Freeman has got to step in, fellas, because yes, you're the head coach, but this is your baby.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I know you don't want to step on Coach Golden's toes, and I respect that. And I know that James Laurinaitis is your guy. But the reality is you're the head football coach. You got to step in and say, hey, fellas, we need to figure this out. And I don't know. I'm not at practice. So I'm saying maybe they're putting too much on these guys' plates. Maybe. I don't know because we're not at practice. So I can't tell you that for sure. But I know cues, Sean, and there's certain things you look for when you see it position group wide that make you say, I think this might be the root of the problem. But whatever the problem is, Sean, it's up to the coaches from Coach Freeman to Coach Golden down to Coach Laurinaitis to say, hey, look, guys, we got to get this fixed because the last 2 weeks we have not played very good offenses. We're about to play some really good offenses where right now these 20-yard runs against them are going to turn into 60-yard touchdowns.
Yeah.
And you can't let that stuff happen. Because if you think Jack Plummer is going to hurt you running the football, I had some news for y'all. Some of these quarterbacks are going to play the rest of the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that stuff's got to get fixed, fellas, because, I mean, Sean, they got to figure something out, man. This can't continue. And
Now, Junior Tuilamaka did get in for a series, right?
Yeah,
Like
he over pursued on a play where they cut back, but you know what though? He read it really well.
Yeah.
He just went over top of a guy instead of fitting. Did you see that play, Ryan? And the guy ended up the running back made a really good read on it.
Yeah,
that was Ott's best run of the day. It was a nice run.
Yeah, but Junior read it. He just kind of fit it wrong, but at least he read it, flowed, and you can correct that. You know, you can, hey, look, man, you got to stay here because that's the kind of play you make in high school where you go over the top and then make that cut. But in college football, guys like Jay Knott cut that sucker back.
I can work with guys being over aggressive because right now we have lack of aggressive. So
I'm with you. I'd rather pull the reins than to try to get a guy to go and 100%. Be aggressive.
100%.
Absolutely.
And so go ahead, Ryan.
Did anybody else play? Because I didn't see Prince Colley.
I didn't see Prince. I didn't see Jalen. I didn't see. No, we just saw the 4 or 5 that we talked about.
Yeah.
And, somebody has to play next week because JD's out for the first half.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Junior may get a shot next week in the first half because Bo probably starts, and then you'll see Junior rotating in. But that's concerning because putting Bo in that spot against that kind of defense, it raises some red flags. But the thing is, like with Bo though, it's like guys, it's like again, Bo, JD, these are veteran dudes that have played a lot of football. Am I supposed to believe that Bo Bauer, is as hard as he works and as athletic as he is downhill, all of a sudden stopped, took a step back, isn't working as hard, so when you see the regression across the board, fellas, you've got to be able to stop and say, hey, fellas, any good coach will do this. And I know these guys are good coaches. You got to be able to look in the mirror and say, fellas, we got to figure this thing out. We got to figure this thing out. And what are we doing that's putting these guys in this position? Because you can't just bench 4 dudes. I mean, that's not practical. And I know that's the easy answer. And sometimes we'll offer that answer. We've offered that answer at running back last week. You say, look, they got to play Chris Tyree more. Right. And they did. And he had over 100 yards of total offense, right? I mean, or of all-purpose yards. And then he set up other opportunities. We say, hey, look, Tobias Merriweather's going to play. Now, he played a little bit today. got in there, blocked a couple times. Vince goes, they're just putting him in there to run block. And I was like, at least they're putting him in there, whatever. And then they took him out and threw, but
it was so obvious when they took him out and they brought somebody else. And I was like, well, now they're going to throw the ball.
They're going to throw it. And they did. I think I'm pretty sure they did.
They got his feet wet. He played in the game, which that's it.
But you just can't your offensive line plays like crap. Bench them all. That's not, that sounds good, but that's not, you can do that maybe in like Madden or something, but that's not practical in real life, guys.
I do have one problem. Go ahead, and this had me heated.
Ooh.
You mentioned it. Look, man, you're a senior, and we're doing a quarterback sneak, and you get a false start. Man, sit down. There's no way you're playing the next play, Braden Lindsay.
Right.
Bring your butt off the field.
Right
now.
Oh yeah.
DJ Brown would have been out of the game for me too.
Same with Jared
DJ
Patterson.
Brown.
Dude, this is the second. You're a captain. Second game in a row that you've had a false start on a third down.
Absolutely.
Dude, what the heck?
Right.
What the heck?
Let these guys know, we're not doing that.
Because Sean,
we're not doing.
Don't you believe that when you hold the veterans accountable,
yes,
that sends a message to everybody? And this is the thing: you don't trust Tobias Merriweather, Tommy Reese's words, but yet you're going to let happen at receiver what we've seen happen from fifth-year seniors: missed blocks, poor effort, false starts on 3rd and 1. A receiver, as a coach, I coached receivers most of my career. Never, ever, 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 ever is acceptable for a receiver to have a false start. No, sometimes with linemen, there's a cadence and all that. You can see the ball clearer than anyone in the country right now.
You shouldn't even know what the cadence is.
It shouldn't matter what the cadence is.
It doesn't matter. You're always looking at the ball all the time.
I'm having flashbacks of coaching high school football and wide receivers going off sides, man. I'm having flashbacks right now.
100% agree with that one, Ryan. I can tell you that. I can tell you that.
Like it's a quarterback sneak.
Right.
Like you don't even have to move.
Just stand there. When they were on the goal line and they were in 13 personnel, and I think it was when
Jaden Thomas
slipped and fell. And Jaden Thomas was the only wide receiver in, and he was split out. He didn't even move for like 3 straight plays because everybody in the stadium knew they were going to run it up the middle, which they should have, and they ended up.
Which I don't like, by the way. It drives me nuts because how do I know if the fade's there if you're just going to stand there?
Right. He stood there for 3 straight plays, basically. Yeah. I mean, don't jump off sides. Just stand there.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. So Salty Virginia Peanut said this. He said, I'll bet the O-line was told at halftime that if anyone had a false start in the second half, they would not play for the rest of the year. I don't remember any false starts in the second half, you guys, but would it shock me if Harry Heastan said something like that? No.
Yeah, no.
4 freaking false starts in the first half, guys. No, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Clean.
Hold on. It was Patterson, Carell, Fisher, and Lindsey. 4 false starts in the first half. 3 from the offensive line.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite too. Zeke Carell with a false start.
Now look, in fairness, we have seen this before when a quarterback replaced. Remember Deshaun's first start against Georgia Tech in 2015, and Ronnie Stanley had like 3 false starts. You guys remember that? Because there is a different cadence. A quarterback has a different inflection point. Things like that. But still, though, I mean, you've had all week to work on this. Right. I mean, so I'll somewhat give a pass for the 3 of them, but you can't blame that last week on Jared Patterson one last week on that because he did the same thing last week. So, I'll give that to Blake, young guy, first time playing with Drew Pine, but this isn't the first time Jared Patterson and Zeke Carell have played with Drew Pine. No, I mean, it's not. So that was frustrating, but overall, guys, let's talk special teams for a minute because Brian Mason has done a phenomenal job so far. And now again, Blake Grupe, got to make that kick, right? But
absolutely.
That's I mean, those type of things, but
counted.
But John Sott averaged 39 yards a punt last year at Harvard. Like, were they only letting him kick from midfield? I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
had to be.
That dude has a leg.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Grupe's got a better leg than I thought too, man.
Yes.
He killed that 47 yarder.
Was not his problem on that kick, fellas.
Nope. No.
And what did the one he made? How far was the one he made?
That was 47, and that was halfway up the net.
The one he
did that with ease.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
No question. No question. He did that with ease.
We can put that to bed. Like the leg strength thing, let's put that to bed. He can hit from distance, right? I mean, that one that he hit with from 47 looked like it would have been good from 57. I mean,
it was halfway up the net.
About 52, probably. I mean, about 52 at least. Yeah.
It cleared it no problem.
Yeah.
So, hey, we'll take it, right? So I will not feel as maybe from a left to right standpoint, but not a distance standpoint.
People say Notre Dame needs to get more transfers. Well, the special teams are certainly benefiting from transfers. That's for darn sure.
Did you see John Sott's little he had a little dance after one punt? Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Hey, you know what? You keep kicking like that because you can dance however you want after a punt, man.
I love it.
Do whatever you want if you keep kicking like that.
Yeah, I think Groupie, the one he missed. The one he missed was the same direction that the Cal kicker missed in.
Yeah.
And that was into the wind. The wind was coming across.
And they both
took both balls. It took both balls left. Yeah.
But then he also make the one he made was also into that direction too.
So he learned
but it was straight. But it's on the opposite side.
He kicked it right and it came back instead of kicking it center and it went out.
And he learned.
So really well done. Really well done. But yeah, Brian Mason has that group playing. I mean, I love the fact I'm a big proponent, guys, of just kick it into the end zone. Don't mess around. You may pin him inside the 20, but you also run the risk of just freaking kick it into the end zone. And I love the fact that they're doing that. The punt coverage has been excellent. And the only one that they had a good return on today was the one where he literally outkicked the coverage. He just boomed the heck out of that one. Yeah. And so I thought they've done a really good, and even then they recovered pretty well. I thought the coverage recovered pretty well. So they weren't leaky at all in the PAT field goals. I didn't notice that at all, guys. Like I didn't even on the deep ones. And did you guys notice Groupie doesn't have much of an approach on those 40+ yard field goals? Did you guys notice that? He does. He has a really quick, compact approach. He's not like trying to muscle it up there. He
doesn't have a long stride. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like it's a real. You'd think like a little kid like that would kind of need a couple extra steps. He's like 5'7", $150, maybe.
I can't wait until he gets measured at the combine at the pro day. It's gonna be fantastic. I can't wait.
He's got a really fast, powerful leg for a guy that doesn't take a lot of doesn't have much. I'm like, does he know it's from 45 out? Like the one he missed? Because I'm like, this dude's like he took just too little, like a 1.5 step back and 1.5 step out. And I'm like, I don't think this kid knows that this kick's 45 yard. Boom. I'm like, okay, I'll shut up now. This is why I don't talk about special teams.
Vince, you remember when we were at that open practice though, and like the ball was exploding off his foot? I'm like, he's got a little more than I thought he
wasn't making anything. That's the funny thing is, what's the one thing you all three of you complained about in the spring and fall was the kickers suck, right? But when the lights are bright, Groupie has been money, fellas. He's been good, and John Sott has been tremendous.
The ball always exploded off his foot, like Ryan said. I mean, it's just a different sound when you hear his ball, when you hear his foot hit the ball, right? And it also because it was indoors and there's kind of an echo and that kind of a thing, but it just sounded different than the other kickers, right? So for whatever reason, he just has a good leg swing and he makes it happen. So as long as he keeps making it happen, I'll be a happy person.
Yep. Yeah. Last thing, guys, for me, I have to share this, and we're going to get to some super chats and questions here in a little bit, and then let you guys wrap up. But I was at the stadium today, and we were going to meet a couple Irish Breakdown people. Got a chance to meet some folks as we walked around campus a little bit, but got a chance to listen to Manti talking to the crowd before the game, before the player walk with Coach Freeman, and got a great ovation. And then before the game, and if anyone was at the stadium, they saw this. Manti presented the flag to the color guard? Is that what they call them? Irish guard. Presented them the American flag for the national anthem. And they were talking about him and talking about his accolades and all that stuff. And the Notre Dame crowd went insane. And I got to tell you, man, it warmed my heart and to hear the crowd embrace him the way that they did. And then to see Manti have the emotional reaction he had. I don't know if they showed it on TV, guys. But watching him cry the way he did, like he needed that so bad. And I don't know if they showed this, but after the anthem, he just grabbed his wife and just like held her. Like you could just see like he needed that so bad. He needed to feel that love so bad. And it was awesome to see that. It was great to see Notre Dame embrace someone who, and I'm hoping that now we can now start remembering him for the tremendous football player that he was and not the other crap. but the way he was embraced, Notre Dame Nation, y'all, people are at the game. Y'all did yourselves and the university and the football team and Manti proud today. You really did, because it was, and they announced him twice, and both times the crowd went absolutely bonkers. And we can't really hear the crowd well in the press box.
Oh,
you can hear them. Yeah. Oh, I mean, you can easily hear them in the press box, guys. It was awesome. He needed it. Notre Dame needed it. It was an awesome moment. And they got a dub. They got a dub with Manti in attendance. So
can Manti come play linebacker?
Seriously. Dude, he looks like he still can.
Let me tell you something. I think they gave him a medium shirt because dude was busting out of it. Like, he could definitely suit up right now and be just fine.
Yeah. Yes, that was great to see. So, Sean, we'll start with you. We'll go to Vince and then Ryan. Just final thoughts on what you guys saw today. Obviously, we'll spend all week talking about what comes next in the areas of improvement, but just final takeaways from today before we go into the super chats and the questions here at the end of this.
Hey, you did what you had to do to get a win.
Yeah.
We can sit up here and talk about what needs to be improved and worked on. What we saw was a team support their quarterback.
Yeah.
Which is what we wanted them to do the first 2 weeks. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do it. And we saw some miscues. We've talked about it with the leadership, but the leadership, mostly in the fourth quarter, when they were needed, stepped up and made the necessary plays to secure a win. And, with Notre Dame this year, it didn't surprise me that it went down to the last couple of bounces in the end zone to finally figure out who won the game. But shout out to Notre Dame breaking the seal and getting Drew Pine and Marcus Freeman their first wins as coach and starter.
Just to speak to Sean's point, in the fourth quarter, Isaiah Foskey had a 4th and 10 sack that ended a drive where he got held like a champ, but he just reached out and just pulled the guy down. And then the next series, 3rd and 10, Jason Adamiola and Foskey both get to the quarterback for a big sack as well. And so, what do we say, guys? Sean, you and I talked about this. Last year's team, when somebody needs to step up and make a play to win a game, they stepped up and made a play. We saw more of that today. Saw more of that today, and especially from those two guys. That's a great sign. Great sign. Vince, go ahead, man.
Zach Martin kind of steals my thunder here. Improvements on both lines was the story. I completely agree. We saw improvement from the offensive line. We saw improvement from the defensive line. They're going to go as far as those two lines take them. Period. End of discussion. Because you got a guy in Drew Pine who I think is going to get better as the season progresses, as he gets more comfortable, because the dude was amped when he started the game, and it showed, right, in a negative way. He's going to get better. He's going to get better. And I thought Tommy Rees did a really good job of play calling and game planning to fit what the skill set that Drew Pine had today, right? I think he's got more than he showed today, but it fit what he did today, which that takes some intuitive, play calling. And I thought Tommy did a really good job. Again, I said at the beginning of the show, and I'll say it now, we banged Tommy for the last 2 weeks on the game plan. He had a great game plan, and they executed it today. So execution on the lines and the game plan by Tommy is my takeaway from this game.
He had to get creative today, and he did get creative. My whole thing is, let's do it when you don't need to do it, and that'll make you even better is my thing, Vince. But yes. Ryan?
Before Herman Edwards was the director of the Sun Devil dumpster fire that is out there in Arizona State, he once said, Brian, you play to win the game.
Right.
They won the game. That's all that matters at the end of the day. I'm excited, though, to see improvements just moving forward, because Notre Dame hasn't really played a good game yet, right? They haven't. They won today, and I don't think they were overly impressive in any phase, if we're being completely honest. They were better in a lot of areas, obviously. That's why they won the game. But Notre Dame still has a lot of potential for this season, so I'm excited to see how they continue to progress. This was, what do we call it, the week of growth, right? It was growth. So let's keep going now. Exponential growth.
Well, we've heard, they should have won. They could have beat Ohio State. They could have beat Marshall, but they didn't. And now people are saying, understandably, man, they could have lost today. But finally, they could have, but didn't.
Right.
And now you need to, as the head coach, Marcus Freeman, say, okay, let's now push the buttons to build on this. Right. And now because what I'm doing is I'm taking every mistake in my film session tomorrow. I'm taking every dumb mistake that they had, every 3rd down penalty, every ball that got thrown into the ground, every bad contain, everything, and say, fellas, we just beat a team that had won 6 out of 8 games, and we did this, and we did this. This is me with the clicker. All right. We did this. 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 And I mean, it's a long line of dumb things that they did today. And I'm saying, but fellas, we still got a W over a Power 5 team that's won 6 out of 8 games. Imagine what we can be if we can fix these things. And that's the message, right?
Yeah.
Is enjoy the win. But guys, we are capable of so much more. That's the difference between results-oriented and process-oriented, right? And if Coach Freeman is the latter, then this is going to be the beginning of this team going on a run, because, you know, you go on the road next week, it's you against the world and all those other type of things. I want to see how this team responds to they embarrassed themselves last week, fellas. I'm going to talk about the loss, how they lost. They embarrassed themselves. And we were like, well, we'll see what kind of character this football team has. And fellas, they showed me, like, execution-wise, not there, right? But passion, fire, heart, making plays we needed to make, getting your butt chewed out on national TV as a quarterback, and then rallying by, like, completing like 10 of your last 11 passes, right? And again, was he throwing a bunch of bombs? No, but he was getting the job done. That's all.
Right.
He managed the game, get the win.
10 of 11 in the
All of
second
it.
half, you told me, right?
10 of, and then the one miss was the ball he threw behind to Braden Lindsey. Again, it wasn't a lot of long throws, but he got it done.
Right.
And that's the thing to me is this team. I'm ticked about the veterans making the mistakes and all, but this team, the one thing I did not quite, even from the guys that didn't play well today, fellas, I never questioned, boy, this guy's not focused today. This guy's not bringing it today. This guy's not playing hard today. This guy doesn't want it.
Right.
Not once did we think of that. Not once did I question that. Execution, problem. Fix it. But the fire was there today. And I think we learned something about the team that way. Now we have to learn, what are you going to do when now that you have some success, can you build on it, or do we take a step back? Right. And that's what we're going to find out. So, fellas, let's get to some questions here. We got some people, some super chats and some questions. It's funny, you know, the super chats are always a lot bigger when they win or when they lose. You know what I mean? Like when they lose. Yeah.
Well, if they would have beat Ohio State, I think it would have been pretty big. But I will,
yeah.
you know.
Well, by the time the show finally started at 3:00 in the morning, but sure. Ian Johnson with a super chat. Ian, thank you. Those were the 2 most exciting non-TOs I've ever seen.
Not wrong.
Yes, it was not wrong. And it was funny. It was clearly he threw the ball, right? Like, I hate that. Like, my dad's a former umpire, and he's kind of has his opinion. It's like, well, you know, just let it play. And he's like, no, make the call, make the right call. You know what I mean? Like, it was clear that he threw the ball. I don't know why they let the whole thing go.
It was,
but whatever.
I thought it was going to be an incomplete pass, to be honest with you. But you know, they ended up making the right call. But yeah,
it was either going to be grounding or a sack, is in my opinion, is what I thought it was going to be.
Agreed.
Yeah. AST 12321. I'm glad we didn't get hit with that App State ending. Yeah, could you imagine if
Mary? I don't know if you saw that
today. They did.
Today.
Oh wow.
To beat Troy.
Wow, that's a little wild.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about some of the scores right now, because when we're done with our part of the show, there's some scores today that are not making much sense to me, fellas. Jonathan Smith with super chat. Do you think we figured out our identity on offense after today? I'm going to say this, guys, and if anyone wants to disagree with me, please do. No, they are still going to have to learn their identity, because they can't be this team every single game the rest of the way.
Correct.
They may make a bowl game that way, but they're not going to beat the team. All the teams are supposed to beat. You cannot dink and dunk your way to 9 straight wins, guys. Right. And that should be the goal. That should be the standard. They started to figure out who they are, but they started to play to who they want to be. They started to show who they want to be, but there's another level of not just execution, but schematically they got to get to. So did they figure out their identity today? No, I think they know what their identity is. It's going to have to adapt to Drew Pine. They want to be a team that dominates in the trenches. They got closer to that today. Now they got to figure out some of that other stuff. Agree or disagree with that, guys?
I agree. I think that you got a good understanding of especially what they want to be as a running team, right? Like you saw, I think, kind of like functionally how you want to run the football from a structural perspective. Passing wise, I mean, I said it in the beginning, Brian, right? Like, I don't think it's sustainable. Like you can't just, boxes are going to get crowded. You're going to be playing better front sevens at points, and they're going to be able to shut down the run game, at least limit it, right? Like we've seen that. So I think that you saw hints of what you want to be, but especially in the passing game, I don't think you have any full understanding of what you want to be in the passing game.
Let's go to the next one here, fellas. We have another super chat from Michael Burke with the 20. I love this super chat of 2417. That's beautiful. His last one was 20-.22. So I like that too. Very creative with your super chats, Michael.
Yeah, no
First
doubt.
win of the Marcus Freeman era. Go Irish.
Love
Yes.
the positivity.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the cool thing. I mean, look, you got this is the thing we don't know, guys. How is this team going to respond, and how's the head coach going to respond now that that monkey's off his back?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and
So that's a huge monkey. I mean, when you figured you were going to walk into a win last week, and then it's like, okay, nothing's guaranteed at this point. Like now
you had 8-9 months of between your first game, and then you get 9 months to prepare for Ohio State. That doesn't go well. You think you've got Marshall, like you said. As the losses kept piling up, there's more and more pressure on him to win. Now that's off. You got that W, right? Now it's okay. Got the first win of the Marcus Freeman era out of the way. Now it's time to go play ball. And I'm curious to see what this team is going to do next. I really am. But yes, it was cool to be there for that. Because I was actually – so it's now 2 head coaches in a row that I've been able to be there for their first win. So I was at the Purdue game in 2010, which was pretty cool. So that was my first Notre Dame home game that I got to, or first Notre Dame game I ever covered was the home opener in 2010 against Purdue, which was the first one of Brian Kelly's tenure. So there you go.
Your good luck. Your good luck is what you're saying.
I think so. A lot of bad crap losses in between. So I'm just gonna focus on the first wins. No, not good luck at all. Gregory Perez with a super chat. Gregory says Notre Dame does what they did today against Cal. They will keep games close. Do you think Pine can take advantage of a weak D against North Carolina? Look, Gregory, up. Let me dive into film first. I would. Can he? Yes. Will he? No clue.
They're going to have to.
Yeah.
That's another conversation, though.
I think the 3 of us could take advantage of the defense against North Carolina. So, I mean, I do think they can take advantage of it. Can they take advantage of it enough to get the win?
Can they? Yes. Will they?
Right. Exactly.
Find out.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
We will find out. All right, let's next super chat here from Relly Q. Cheers to these boys not throwing in the towel after the first 2 weeks, especially Mayer on the sidelines encouraging the team. Yeah, there's somebody who was asking about like when is Mayer gonna, do the whole leave for the draft and all that stuff. I don't see any. The only way that for the bowl game, yeah, sure.
But
the odds of them having Michael Mayer for a bowl game this year are slim to none at this point in time, right?
Let's
because they're not going to be in the playoff, which is what it is.
But let's be honest. What's the best thing that Michael Mayer can do for his draft stock right now? Block somebody on game.
Just keep making plays. Just be a leader. All that stuff's going to play. All of it's going to play into it. No doubt. No doubt.
I really did like, though. Brian, we talked a lot last week about, using your frustration in a better way, talking about like the Jared Patterson thing, right? When Michael Mayer got that ball that was completely overthrown to him, he came on the sideline. He was hot, right? But he was hot encouraging Drew Pine, right? Yeah. So like using his emotions the right way is what I saw out of that situation. Yeah. So I like that.
That's what a leader should do. Right? Yeah, I know you're pissed off. You wanted that ball, but you can either rip your quarterbacks behind, which everyone else is doing, or you can, hey man, let's go, buddy. You got to make that play. I believe in you. That kind of thing, So everything good, Vince? Did something happen? Did the game just?
Sorry, I was watching LSU Mississippi State, and yeah, sorry.
Mississippi State's choking that one away.
They had basically a kick return touchdown called back, and then the very next play drops a first down. Anyway.
It's Mississippi State, man. Benjamin Weiss, I'm riding with y'all, taking Texas A&M in the NIL Bowl. That would obviously be he's picking Texas A&M tonight against Miami in the NIL Bowl. It's really funny. It's really well played. Really well played. I didn't see this guy. So a lot of people said this. Tyler Evans says, was that offsides on Cal?
I actually looked it up, and there's some highlights on YouTube. Didn't look like it was offsides to me. I have to say.
Who'd they call it on? Was it a guy lined up offsides? Did they call somebody lined up offsides?
They said he was offsides. They didn't really specify.
Brian, they showed it on the screen about 10 to 15 times, and I did not see anybody really offside.
I'll call it even since they had 2 long passes instead of touchdowns off clear not catches. The first one wasn't even close. I can't even believe that. I can't believe they called the first one a catch, period. Like live. It was so obvious that was not a catch.
Correct.
The second one I thought was a catch live, and then you saw later that the ball just clearly hit the ground and you didn't have control of it. But we'll call it even.
Call it even. I agree with that.
Yep. It's still Notre Dame still owes them one because they got 2 touchdowns off of that crap. So because the second penalty they had that set up a Notre Dame touchdown was clear targeting on the Cal kid. Both of those targeting calls. That's the kind of targeting call for me that I'm like, I'm okay with that being targeting. I'm okay with that being an ejection. Right. Like the hit from the Cal kid on Drew Pine was incredibly unnecessary.
51.
And violent. Like not violent, dangerous. Mm-hmm. And the hit that JD Bertrand had on the receiver, that was unnecessary and dangerous. That kid clearly is not a factor for the ball anymore. You had to take several steps to him after it was obvious he was not making a play for the ball anymore. That's just not a kind of hit I want to see, and from a captain, So now you're not going to have him the first. So like stuff like that, like, man, that just burns me up.
It was a frustrating play, man.
It was. Christopher Federico with a super chat. Thank you, Christopher. I love to see a stat on how many 3rd and 5s or less we had false starts on this year. I mean, it's several. I mean, just in this game alone.
At least 3, right?
Yeah,
at least 3.
You had the one last week on 3rd and 3, right? You had one today on the first drive of 3rd and 3 by Braden Lindsey. You had a 3rd and 4 on, so he said 3rd and 5 or less. You had a 3rd and 4 on Blake Fisher. Still should have completed that because on the next play was the seam throw to Michael Mayer that he just flat out missed. Then the next series you have a drop by Lorenzo Styles on a wide open crosser route where does he catch and run that one, Ryan? I thought he does. I thought he runs for like 60 yards, but he's going to at least get 8 to 10 yards on that one.
I think it might have been more than that. Like you could tell me that he would have got 20, 25 yards and be like, yep, sounds about right, man. Like he had a lot of room.
Yeah. Then your next drive, you fumble the freaking snap. This is what Notre Dame, and they won.
Right.
First drive, 3rd and 1, false start on 3rd and 1 on a quarterback sneak. You don't get it. Next down, 3, typical normal 3 and out, right? 3rd series, 3rd and 4, false start on your right tackle. Next drive, your tight end's wide open, you miss them. 4th series, 3rd and 5, and that was one of those plays, guys, where Sean, you were talking about earlier. That was the one I have down here. I said an angle and an end both open, no throw. Then you get 3rd and 5. Drew Pine gets the ball where it needs to go, and Lorenzo just drops it. Next series, fumbled the snap, gave the ball to Cal. Next series, after that, Notre Dame finally goes down and scores. And they still won. That's the thing is like,
terrible start.
Yes. And and they benefited a little bit because, again, that's the series where they had the offsides and the missed field goal. So it was like, here we go again. But they took advantage of that mistake and they kind of rolled after that. I mean, that's when they kind of got rolling a little bit. So hopefully it's the spark of many things. Stephen F., where is Tobias? It's clear we need a wide receiver. Agree. He played today, but not a ton.
Yeah, wasn't targeted, was just kind of out there.
Step in the right direction. You got on the field.
It is a step in the right direction. I mean, baby steps, I guess.
Yep. Sean, here you go. This is kind of along the lines of what you brought up earlier from Remington Jeans. Am I crazy in thinking bringing Henderson up at linebacker for some plays would help? I mean, Sean, that's the
kid's strength. As Ryan talked about, the action is fast and furious near the line of scrimmage, and he seems to be able to work in that environment where, like, let me go. What am I doing? Am I blitzing? Is the running back my guy? Like, anytime it seems like he has, open field and he's put in man-to-man coverage, he struggles a little bit, right?
Right.
At that safety position. But anytime he has a clear assignment, like, dude, he's game busters. Like, put him in position to be successful. And if it's a rotation with someone else, whether it's in nickel or at rover or whatever it is, make it happen. It's the same thing for Maris. Like, okay, he might not be the guy at will. Go get Junior and start putting him in advantageous positions where he can rush the passer off the edge, which is giving rest to somebody else, in those positions on 3rd downs. And maybe you can go NASCAR on 3rd downs where you put him, Jason Adamiola, Riley, and Foskey all in there. Or you, for heaven's sake, stand Foskey up.
So you're saying when they go to their dime package, basically, Sean, when it's like 3rd 9, they're throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Why not?
and then give Isaiah different things, you can treat Isaiah like I'm not, because I don't want Ryan to roll his eyes right here because I'm not comparing these two guys.
I would never roll my eyes at you, Sean. I would never do that.
No, not at me, but just at the word. Like, but put him in a position to stand up in different fields. Like Will Anderson doesn't always come off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain passing situations where he stands up and chooses which gap he wants to blitz from and let him go after the quarterback. It's like, if you're going to be creative, because we've seen Al Golden for some reason at strange times during the game, all of a sudden go to a 3-man front. Like, I don't know what causes him to go to a 3-man front, but he does it. And it's like, okay, why'd you go to it there? I mean, if you're going to be creative, at least have the guys out there that are going to be in position to be able to be impactful.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking for.
I would have had Foskey on Brian Driscoll about 6 or 7 times tonight.
Dude, you're about to strike my last nerve.
Wait a minute. Pause. Because that sounded real crazy, Ryan.
Yeah.
That sounded a little strange. So that's pause. That's pause.
On a serious note, though, if I had the shot, I think my 2 rovers right now rotating in would be Maris Loithal and Ramon Henderson when I'm going to a little bit more of a flex look defensively.
I'd switch that. I mean, right now, Maris has done nothing. Like, nothing. He's been a liability. And I don't want to completely write him off because he's really athletic.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's going to have to show me something quick, Ryan, because, especially with the next 2 teams that they play. There's no doubt, in my opinion. Thomas K with a super chat. Thank you, Thomas. He goes, the last possession drove me nuts. You can be safe without running up the middle 3 times. He's referring to the offensive series and agree. Look, even if you want to run it 3 times, like run it. Like, I think who was it that said earlier, like, run a shovel, run a jet, something like that. Run a, and then give Drew a call. Hey, look, man, this first play, we're going to go out there and we're going to run a little, bootleg action, and we're going to throw a slide. If it's not wide open, tuck that sucker up the field and run with it. You know what I mean? Or say, hey, look, first down, we're going to run up the middle. If they show us this, if they reduce, then on the second down, we're going to run this and we're going to boot off of it. Something like that, where it's a safe play. But yeah, I agree. I agree with the sentiment. Josh Phillips says that's with a super chat. Thank you, Josh. Bertrand owes Clarence Lewis a 5-course meal.
Sure does.
That's a really nice play by Clarence. But how about the heads up awareness of Cam Hart? Because Clarence was going to try to run that sucker back. And did you guys see Cam Hart be like, go down. Go down?
Right.
You know what I mean? Which I understand Clarence's design. I mean, you get the ball, you're trying to score, right? But but then the awareness of Cam to say, hey, man, because if you fumble this sucker and give them the ball back, go down. It was big. It was big. And he's right. He absolutely owes Clarence. So it's a 5-course meal. He owes the whole defense a 5-course meal for how that game finished up.
I felt so good for Clarence for a second, too. I'm like, that caps off his good night in the perfect way. And then,
But of course,
I like Tariq. So I didn't see what happened on the fumble that Tariq ran back because I was looking downfield.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw Tariq pick it up and run. I could see out of the corner of my eye that the quarterback was getting hit, right? So I was looking down the field at the coverage and the routes, and I could see that the quarterback got hit, and then I saw the ball just sputtering, and then I looked over, saw Tariq picking up and run it back. So I didn't see what happened, but I was like, man, I thought that would have been a great – for the way that Tariq has played the first 3 games, I was like, that would have been really fitting for him to be able to put this game away with a fumble return for a score.
It was a great – who was that got the sack? Was that Justin?
That was Jason, I thought.
That was Justin, I think.
Was it Justin?
That was Justin.
Yeah,
They credited Jason in the stat sheet.
That was Justin.
Pretty sure it was Justin. Yeah.
Justin almost had the sack on the Justin was there on the safety, the borderline safety too as well.
Yeah,
I believe.
And Plummer, being smart, was going down and just threw it underhand just to get it out of his hand and not take the sack, but his knee hit the ground before he got it out. So it looked strange on TV because you couldn't see him shoveling it forward. So it did look like the ball just came out of the pile. And it looked like a fumble.
Like maybe Justin came up behind, or whoever did it came up behind him and just kind of knocked it out.
Yeah. And it wasn't until they showed the replay that you were like, okay, that's incomplete pass, but I'm glad they got that right, Ryan. The refs finally showed up and said, if it's not a fumble, then we're going to call intentional grounding, 10-second runoff.
Well, and they didn't even do the intentional grounding. They ruled it a sack because his knee was
Yeah,
down.
because his knee hit the ground.
Yeah.
They were saying if it wasn't a fumble, it was going to be sack or intentional grounding if he got it off. Yeah.
Well, would have been better if it was intentional grounding, but yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, let's go to the next super chat from Christopher Federico. Why do you think we didn't take a shot at the end zone in the fourth, down at the end of the half? Is it because none of the quarterbacks can throw the ball 50 yards downfield? I don't think that's it. I just think everything here's in defense of the coaches, they were lucky to be down 10-7 at halftime. Mm-hmm. That offense, I don't know if you could have a worse offensive performance than what they had in the first half. I mean, I went through it. 3rd and 1, first series, false start. That was after your quarterback missed a wide open guy in the flats. Drive number 2, you have another play where you get minus. You end up punting 3 and out. Next drive, quarterback misses a wide open guy in the flats. 3rd and 4, false start. 3rd and 9, tight end wide open. Quarterback just whiffs on him. Next series, you get 3rd and 5, your best receiver drops a wide open crossing route. Next series, you fumble on the second play of the game or second play of the series. Like, they were so lucky to then they followed up with say, look, guys, let's just not do something stupid where we give them a ball and let them go down and score. Like, I am more understanding of that, guys, than I was of the running it out at the end because the offense was playing well. But at that point in time, I was like, look, just get into halftime down 10-7 because you're lucky to be down 10-7 with the dumb stuff that you were doing this half. So I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but that was kind of my sentiment on that. Like, I could see it, guys. I could see him rolling out and then getting hit from behind, and the ball goes flying, and Cal picks it up and runs it back for a touchdown. You know what I mean?
I think we should give the coaching staff credit too, because not only did they probably make a good decision there, they also went into halftime and they had some really good. I think some really good process to figure out what they were going to do coming out of the second half. Right? Like, I think they had some
Ryan,
good
that's
decisions.
A good point. One of the criticisms, and I'll let you guys speak on this. I'm just going to pose the question. One of the criticisms of the coaching staff the first 2 games, rightfully so, was they either didn't make enough adjustments at halftime or the adjustments they made did not work. I thought both sides of the ball, halftime adjustments were excellent against what I believe and what, Ryan, you and I talked all week. And Sean, I don't know what you guys talked about on your show this week about this, but I think a not super talented Cal team, but a well-coached Cal team schematically on both sides of the ball. And I thought that halftime adjustments on both offensively and defensively really hit all the right notes to come out and have success in the second half. Sean, what are your thoughts on that?
I thought Tedford and Musgrave came out with a really solid game plan. Really solid game plan. And I'll give Tommy, I did mention this. I think during the week I said something that I watched in the Cal UNLV game is that they did a really good job of taking Sermon out of the box with their running backs. UNLV did. And I said, I wonder if Tommy's going to see that from a 2-wide running back set. And I said, we have the guys that can run a 2 running back set. And I did see Tommy use that a couple of times. And Cal kind of adjusted because they expected it. And it wasn't Sermon that went with the running back. Either the safety or the other linebacker went with them, and they kept them in the box. But it still lightened up the box, and Notre Dame was able to go with the run a couple of times and build some momentum. So seeing stuff like that, seeing them pay attention to what other teams are successfully doing to teams the week before and implementing it in their own way and getting it into the game plan, that was something I liked. And overall, I just think moving forward, like you talked about the offensive line and the run game, I think there's progression for everyone, right? Because the running backs, I'm sure from the first 2 games had to be kind of gun shy and couldn't run as hard as they wanted to. And this was the first week they really had room. So now they're like, okay. And if they continue to get room, I think they'll run a little bit quicker and a little bit harder. And you'll see the run game get better week by week. So it's going to be interesting to see the game plans and adjustments going forward. But I agree with you, from an of course, they won the game, so it's easy to say they made the right adjustments. I think, Brian, you pointed out last week during the post show, like they made adjustments in the second half. They just didn't complete the pass or execute the play. So as much
and
as
some of the adjustments I didn't like, especially defensively, but they did make adjustments. They just weren't always the right ones. Yeah.
So, they're going to continue to make adjustments. I trust this staff. You pointed out Marcus Freeman. One of the things that I would like to see him do is to forget, and maybe winning the first one will relieve some of that pressure. Because it seemed like the pressure, you could see it on his face the last 2 weeks on the sideline. And now that he's won a game, now it's like, okay, just go coach. Just go coach. Be yourself. Be the same charismatic guy that you are everywhere else. Mm-hmm. Be that on the field. Show exuberance, show excitement, coach, encourage your guys, and just go have fun. And then I think if he's having fun and excited, his players will follow suit.
So he has always, even at Cincinnati, even as the defensive coordinator last year, he has always tried to be stoic on the sidelines.
True.
And today was, and we've had people say like he's emotionless on the sidelines. Like I watched him a lot today in between series. This was the most animated I've seen him, and not reactionary, but just like up and down the sidelines, talking to the refs. I've never seen him talk to refs this much. I'm like, you know what? That's what a head coach kind of has to do. That's one of your jobs. I mean, the pass interference that they called on Cam Hart, I think it was the right call. He might not have caught it, but Cam kept him from running up the field and maybe being in position.
He did.
But they weren't going to call it. Wilcox ran right to the ref and was like, and then the guy pulls his flag out and chucks it, right? Like we see that happen all the time, and that's where I think, I want to see some of that stuff. I don't mind him chewing his quarterback out after you fumble the ball. Sure what I don't like is when the previous coach was in the quarterback's ear every freaking series. When your quarterback fumbles a snap, and he fumbled the snap. That was on Drew, in my opinion. 100%. I want to see that, right? Yeah. So, and we had a super chat. I'm going to bring this up, guys, real quick, and then I'll let you respond. I'll let you respond to it, Vince, but I want you to respond to it in context of the super chat I'm about to bring up, okay? Because I want to address this because I understand that people may have difference of opinions on this, and I respect that, but I want us to be able to share ours. Milton Fan 15 with super chat. Thank you, Milton Fan. He says, really disappointed in the demeanor of Marcus Freeman and Tommy Rees and how they yell at players. I'm a vet, so not a stranger to yelling, but a good butt chewing is intentional. So, Vince, I think this will kind of set up your response a little bit on that.
Number one, I completely agree that it was intentional. Number two, it's not yelling at players; it's yelling at player singular. That we don't.
Well, I think he's just saying in general, yelling at players.
I have zero problem with it because you know why? Because Drew Pine was playing like dog poop. Okay, and he needed a fire lit under his butt. I have no problem whatsoever with them yelling at him. And to capitalize on what you were just saying, Brian, because you were talking about how you didn't like the previous head coach just getting in the ear of the quarterback. Marcus Freeman made his point with Drew Pine as he was coming off the field. Like, dude, you can't do that. That's not okay. Then he let him go talk to Tommy Rees on the phone. You know what I mean? Like,
where he would have followed him all the way. Yeah. You can see sometimes like Everett Golson, especially, just like, dude, I'm trying to walk to the bench. Will you freaking let me walk to the bench? You know what I mean? Yes.
As a head coach, you need to let your players know how you feel. He needs to know that's not okay. Of course, he already knows it's not okay, but he needs to know that it's not okay. And then you go let him talk to his position coach, and Marcus Freeman continues to be the head coach at that point. I'm sorry. I have no problem with him getting yelled at that point.
And here's the thing.
To it, by the way. Just going to say
what did Tommy Rees say? Tommy Rees used curse words at Drew Pine, but he didn't say, you're a dumb MFer.
Right.
You're a dumb POS. He said, do your effing job.
Right.
Yeah. And then start saying, throw the effing flat base, I think is what he said. The seam was effing open. That's coaching. Now, you may not like his words,
right?
But he wasn't butt chewing him like, Drew, you suck. You're killing us. You're costing us the game. He was saying, do your effing job. This was there. That's there.
Right.
Get the ball out.
Right.
There's accountability there. And Drew responded to it.
Exactly.
I mean, because he made the throws.
So, right. And as a coach,
I will say this, Vince, because I want you to respond to this as a coach. I hate when coaches cuss out players. Hate it. Cuss out players.
That's different.
That's not a cussing out. That's a cussing at while instructing. This is different. People don't like Harry Heastand in his language, but every time he stands using curse words, it's mixed around telling you what you did wrong.
Correct.
That's different than just embarrassing a guy or cussing at a guy. And that's I could be wrong, and I think people are allowed to disagree on that, but that's my stance on that. He didn't just cuss at him.
Right. He used swear words while he was coaching, and look. And here's the other thing: as a coach, you know darn well who you can yell at and who you need to Father Flanagan, right? Who you need to put your arm around and tell him it's going to be okay, all that. That's part of coaching, is you need to understand how to coach each individual player. Clearly, Drew Prine can handle a butt chewing, okay? Because both Marcus Freeman and Tommy Rees gave him one, and he responded to it. So that tells me they know their players, okay? Have we seen Marcus Freeman scream at a guy before? I haven't.
Not often. Not publicly like the way he did.
Not in a game situation like that, right? Granted, we don't have the access to the camera of Tommy Rees all the time. But I haven't seen him go postal like that, with anybody over the last 3 years, right? So clearly Drew Prine can handle that, and he responded. I think that's what it comes down to. He responded to it. So I have no problem with it.
And this isn't a shot at Milton fan at all, but if he didn't show any emotion, then there would be people in here saying, like, why are you not showing any emotion at all? Like, do you
You're
care
just
about
letting
these
these things happen. You're not holding people accountable.
100%,
right.
100%.
Not so much Milton. We're not saying you, but that's just how it works. We see that all the time.
Yep.
I feel
like there's never common ground with it. It's one extreme or the other. Because, like, I agree. Like, there's a line that gets crossed, right, with that type of stuff. But I'll say this also. And this is just me personally, and Vince, you said it perfectly because you're an educator, right? I used to be an educator, and that kids react to things differently. That's just how it is, right? Like different styles of teaching and getting through to people, right? Coaching. I am a person when I played that I had coaches that were aggressive and foul language, all that good stuff. And then I had the other side where Ryan, I think you use stoic, right? Like kind of a soft-spoken guy, just more private stuff. I always reacted better to the former there, man. Like guys that kind of get in your ear a little bit. Because again, I know that guy cares about me playing well, right? Like I know that
I personally didn't like a guy yelling at me. I didn't like that because I was a quarterback. I was like, hey, how about you tell me what I did wrong?
Right.
Of course, I know I shouldn't hit the linebacker in the chest. Duh, I know that. You know what I mean? Like, what did I miss pre-snap? And look, as a coach, there were times that I feel looking back on my career, I'm like, you know what? I didn't handle that well. I didn't give that kid what he needed in that moment. And I reacted out of anger. I reacted out of this or that. I mean, I think every coach looks back. I had a conversation with a coach recently who was talking about, his tenure at a previous place. And he was like, I don't think what was said about me was correct, but you know what? I wish I would have acted differently in a lot of different times. I think we all should have that at times as coaches. And you say, you know what? I should have handled this differently. This kid needed love at that time. I didn't ask enough what was going on with this kid of why he wasn't locked in every day at practice, and like you said too, Vince, I had two receivers and they're two of my favorite kids. And I had a receiver named Curfew Spate at CNU, great kid. And his dad was literally like a drill sergeant. And I swear to you, Curfew did not know how to respond to normal talk as a player. Exactly. Like it just, for whatever reason, like it just didn't quite register when I just, and then I had another kid whose name I won't mention, but he didn't like being yelled at. He got real, like almost kind of like, like he was going to really get angry, and then he would just shut off and wasn't hear anything you were going to say.
Yeah.
And I had to handle him differently. And the kid that I was easier on yelling wise asked me after I left that school, and he said, "Why did you treat me differently than you treated Curfew and George?" And I said, "Because every time I jumped on you, you didn't respond well to that." And I said, "What you'll learn as a coach is you treat every kid fairly. You don't treat every kid the same.
Equity
And-
versus equality. Right. Exactly.
I'm going to treat all of you fairly. I'm going to do what I got to do to get the most out of you. I'm going to be honest with you and all that kind of stuff. But if you need your butt chewed to hear me, then I'm going to chew your butt when you need to hear me. If you're someone who I notice does not handle that type of criticism well, then it's my job to say, this is a 19-year-old. I'm an adult. It's my job to make sure I'm figuring out what works for him, right? And we all learn that. And for me, with Drew Pine, I think Drew in that moment needed that. Wake the heck up, dude.
But why did he
Killing
need
us
it?
right now.
Why did he need it, Brian? We have to be fair as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had tried to come on, Drew,
Sure.
with the first series, and they had tried
in
it
the second
come
series,
on,
in the
Drew,
third
second
series, in the
third
fourth series.
and you get here in the second quarter and you can't handle a snap, and you
Right.
give them a short field. Okay, now we got to get on you.
Yeah,
exactly. Like they tried that approach.
It's not like it was on the first series after he missed the first flat cut, right? Like, it was after several. Like, dude, you're killing us right now.
You're killing us right now.
know?
Single-handedly,
Right.
you are killing
Right.
the offense right now.
Right. But Milton fan, I appreciate the fact that you stepped up and said that, because I do think it's a good conversation piece, because every butt chewing is not appropriate.
Right.
And every butt chewing is not, that involves curse words is not inappropriate. It's circumstance related, player related, and are you coaching or not? That's my whole thing is, if you're using a lot of curse words, I mean, look, I cussed a lot as a coach, and regrettably so. If I could go back and do it all over again, my volume would have been the same, but my words would have been different. I don't like the fact that I was that way, and I don't defend coaching that way because I was that way. I wish I wasn't that way. I wish I found a better way to communicate, even in frustration. However, it doesn't bother me as long as it's involved in coaching. And one of the reasons I didn't like Brian Van Gorder is because when he would chew players out or curse at them, it was insulting. There wasn't any coaching being done. It was humiliating. And I'm never a fan of you humiliating a player. And telling the guy to do your effing job, hit the effing seam throw, the guy's effing open in the flats, that's not humiliating him. That's chewing his butt.
Exactly.
Saying you freaking suck and this is why your girlfriend doesn't love you is humiliating him. And I've known coaches that have done that before at Notre Dame, that if this is why your mother doesn't love you, all right? Like, I'm dead serious. And I'm going to punch you in the face, right? That's not coaching. That's being an a-hole. And I don't think Tommy Rees was being an a-hole then. I think he was coaching. Does his mom probably wish he wouldn't have used the F word? I'm sure. You know what I mean? Does Drew Pine's mom wish he didn't use the F word? I'm sure. But if I know Drew Pine at all, I don't think that bothered him. If anything, it's like, you know what? Coach is pissed. You know what I mean?
Drew Pine's mom was in the stands, like rubbing her forehead the entire game, especially in the first half. They kept showing her
football mom, right? So she had an older son that played at Brown. Her dad played college football. She's probably thinking, Drew, the effing seam is open.
Throw the seam.
Like, do your effing job, Drew. You know what I mean?
Same thing.
Yeah, she had the same.
His mom is an
expression as Tommy.
His mom is an awesome lady.
Yeah,
like when you guys remember, my mom got really sick and had to have that surgery. I've never talked to Mrs. Pine ever, and she was one of the first people that reached out to me and told me she was praying for me. Was going to church to pray for my mom, and reached out many times to check in and see how my mom was doing. She doesn't know me. Nice. Like, she doesn't know anything. I've never talked to her before. I've only talked to Drew a couple of times. So she's an awesome lady. I'm a big fan of Mrs. Pine. But knowing her and like the fact that she's a football mom, the way that she is, her oldest son was a linebacker, I believe. I'm pretty sure her sons have had their butts chewed a few times. Yes. I'm sure her sons have had their butts chewed a few times.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're going to be all right. So yeah, he comes from a really good family. Like, I have a lot of respect for the Pines. I really do. And I'll say it now because it's like, way in the past. But yeah, she gained a lot of respect for me. And it was never asking, hey, write a good story about Drew. It was never anything like that. Hey, I read a story about Drew. It's awesome. Now I'm going to care about your mom. Just kind of the lady she is. So I appreciated that very, very much. All right, here we go. British boy, Irish boy. I thought that was a T. Bry Irish Boy, $5 or with a super chat. Excuse me. How many more games before we lose? I'm all screwed up here, guys. How many more games before we lose Michael Mayer to draft preparation? His frustration is obvious.
He's not going.
That's the one. That's the one we were referring to earlier. I just wanted to bring it up and thank him for that. But yeah, I don't see that happening.
I don't see that being the case either.
I will have completely misread Sean. I will have completely misread Michael Mayer's character if that happens. Completely have misread it.
Yeah, but if it happens, I'm cool with seeing more holding stays in Eli Reardon.
Yeah. I just don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening.
There's nothing about Michael Mayer that makes me think that. Bowl game, yes. And honestly, at this point in time, like I get it for bowl games, right?
Whatever.
Yo,
Michael Mayer, I get it.
Michael Mayer, after he missed him on the seam route, went to the sideline and walked up to Drew like, dude, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, man, let's get it together. So by the time Marcus Freeman said something to him, it was like, okay.
And Drew doesn't even need anyone to do it. You know he's mad at himself, but sometimes you need that wake-up call a little bit.
Yeah, he had a little residue from the spring game left over. He had to knock that off.
There's a super chat in there towards the bottom, Brian. If you want to grab that, it talks about what we're talking about. That way we can just kind of wrap up this conversation.
For Milton fan?
Sean S.
Oh, Sean S.
There we go.
Says, I texted him this Sunday and said, I want you to be hard on me. I responded well to his hard coaching. Drew Pine post-game per Matt Fortuna. So
he obviously somebody asked him about it. He's like, look, I respond well to hard coaching. Clearly the coaches know their players. That's what I'll say.
Sure. I didn't see that quote, so I won't respond to that. But if that's what he said, then sure. I mean that. Yeah. And again, did Drew go into a shell? No. But again, he said Milton fan 19 says seems out of characteristic stress for Marcus Freeman and Tommy Reese not caring. So I'm not sure what that means. Bry Irish Boy with a super chat. Thank you for that one as well. Marist always flies at the end of the play. He's never flown in to make a play. Am I wrong? Well, not never, but it's not often enough. But again, I think that's because he's often late to respond and read what the play is. But once he decides to run, he is impressive. It's just he's often the last guy to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I was going to say something insulting. It was going to sound insulting, but I really didn't mean it to be. I'll have to tell you guys after the show. Fighting Irish with a super chat. Thank you. Sean is right. I'm no coach, but I have eyeballs. Lewis balled today. Cam has become a liability in our secondary. Thankfully, Plumbers passes off the mark.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, a liability
is kind of harsh.
He was a liability maybe because of his hamstring, but he's not a liability.
In the Ohio State game, he got beat twice early, but he didn't get beat again after that.
Not liability. That's taking it a little.
Not today. I thought he played poorly. I actually thought last week was his worst game.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I thought he played very poorly last week, but I thought today, I mean, again, a couple mistakes, but I thought overall, I mean, look, you got to judge a guy on what he does an entire game. Now, those big plays stand out, but Cam had a lot of really good plays, including some, really tight coverage at the end of the game as well.
Yeah. And I think in the first quarter, I forget it was a ball that Plummer threw, that when he let it go, I literally thought Cam was going to pick it off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo. And Cam, you could tell, I don't think he's 100%, but he's playing much better and broke on the ball much better than he's been breaking on the ball the first two games.
Right.
As soon as the receiver caught the ball, he was there to make the tackle. But it was one of those throws where if he's right, it's like, oh, man, that's either a pass breakup or a pick the other way.
Yeah. Right.
So he's
Sean, he looked a lot more confident in his hamstring today. He looked a lot more explosive on his plant drives today. And I don't know if that showed up on film, but that's something that I noticed today. I did. A lot tighter in coverage. Against guys, what I felt is the most athletic second receiving core they've faced up to this point once Jackson Smith and Jigba went out, in my opinion. Right? You could Ohio State's still probably better. I'll take that back. But much closer to Ohio State than Marshall was.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, much better receiving core this week than last week. Much better receiving core this week than last week.
Once again, the Marshall game to me, fellas, wasn't about Marshall, man.
Yeah.
That was about Notre Dame. And this week, it wasn't about Cal. It's about Notre Dame. Just play, do what you're supposed to do, and be fundamentally sound, and you're better than the majority of the teams on your schedule. It's that simple. If you take away the 2 interceptions and the pick six, Notre Dame might still beat Marshall. That's how much better they are than Marshall last week.
Mm-hmm.
That they played that bad and still had a chance to win that game.
Right.
That shows you how much better they are. And then you watch Marshall go out and lose to Bowling Green this week, and you understand, like, yeah, they played really bad last week. They just played bad. And moving forward, if they play with progression like they played this week and get better next week, they'll beat North Carolina.
Good call.
They'll beat them.
Yes. If Notre Dame plays their game, they will not lose another game until leading into the Clemson game. They won't lose another game if they play their game. Sean, to your point, unfortunately, we haven't seen them come close to playing their game yet.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. So lot of work to be done. Another super chat from Tyler Evans. Mr. Davis, that would be you, Sean. This guy right here. Thanks for having me on the LL podcast, and that made my day. Thanks again.
Oh, Tyler. Okay. That's what's up, Tyler. Glad to have you, my man.
Really Q with Super Chat Styles has the same total receptions as all the other receivers combined through 3 games. Is the issue with separation, reads, or something else? It's a little bit of everything. I think guys are getting open. Styles has played a lot of. He's been the primary receiver in a lot of routes. Number one, he's caught a lot of short stuff. He's had the shovels were going to him until today, where they went to Lindsey. And I think part of it is, other than Braden Lindsey, there's not another receiver on the roster that's played well so far. And Braden Lindsey's had some good moments and some not good moments, but nobody else has really done anything at this point in time at receiver, in my opinion. Like nothing. So that's part of it too, is just the other. Jaden Thomas hasn't done a whole lot. Matt Salerno's had a play, made a play against Ohio State. He hasn't done anything else other than that.
And honestly, they haven't really played Salerno a whole lot. And that's
he hasn't played a ton of snaps.
Right.
But he gets targeted when he gets the ball. And I'm okay now. Like Vince, that role's fine with you, right?
100%. As I was going to say, that's the role he should have. He's a guy you can trust. He's going to line up correctly. He's going to, do some different things. I don't know how many snaps he had today. My guess would be about 6 to 8.
Well,
okay.
He got like 3 at the very end of the game, and that when they went 13 personnel, they put him in the game. So he definitely got 3 at the very end for sure.
Okay. Well, yeah. But again, he clearly wasn't, a focal point of the game plan the way it seemed like he was earlier, against
even then, he only played 8 snaps against Ohio State and got 2 targets. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they were big moments. And then of course he makes a great play on one and gets a pass interference on the other, but people are making it seem like he was playing 50 snaps a game. And like, no, that's actually Jaden Thomas playing that much. And you're like, wow, he played that much. And I'm like, exactly. Yeah. So
that's Brian little slide dig right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Milton Fan 15. Oh, sorry, we already read that one. John Monty with a super chat. He got a couple super chats, John. Appreciate you. And John also had a question. He said, I was happy for the secondary. I thought they played pretty good today. Love your show, guys. Go Irish. John, thank you very, very much for the kind words. But yeah, I'll tell you what, guys, is there a position group that's played better on offense or defense? Take away the special teams.
All 3 games, right?
Is there any, just if you take all the 3 games cumulative, is there a position group that has played better than what the secondary has played in the first 3 games? Because I think the answer is no, and I don't think it's close.
It's not close. It's not close.
Because I didn't think the front 7 played that well against Ohio State. I thought the secondary was excellent in that game after the first couple series. Right. Excellent. I thought the secondary was okay last week. I thought they were really good again today, with a couple of exceptions on some moments where you gotta be more locked in, right? If the refs blow the whistle dead, then they blow the whistle dead, but you got to line up and play. That's a coaching thing that they'll correct.
It's so funny that we spent all off season talking about everyone's freaking out about the secondary and special teams, and those are the things we're not worried about right now. It's just funny.
By far the 2 best parts of this football team.
Yes, it's crazy, man. It's
by far, which is just wild. There's so many things, like if I would have told you this at the beginning of the year, you would have been like, oh, that, you would have had completely different takes. Anyway, it's very interesting. We have a super chat here from Milton fan again. What's the cause of lack of cohesion, identity, coaching, and experience or leadership? Glad to see Chris Tyree finally getting reps. What the heck took so long? That's one thing I looked at Vince at halftime and I was like, I was glad they're finally getting Chris Tyree involved in the game plan. My question is, why did it take them to start 0-2 to figure that out?
Right. And 80,000 people, and then however many were in the press box were all like, why is Chris Tyree not getting the touch? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I mean, and I don't know if it was because Logan Diggs was injured. I don't think so. But not injured, but sick. He was under the weather. He was actually just sick.
Right. It looked intentional. Like the way that they were getting him the ball in the first half, it looked intentional, Vince. It didn't look like, oh, Logan's sick. Let's get Chris.
I just wanted to throw that out there, but like it was very intentional. It was very clear. I liked the rotation. Honestly, I liked the 2 running back rotation. I did, and I thought that they held up just fine. You can throw a third back in there at times. But I was very impressed. I thought those two did a really good job. I thought Chris Tyree answered the bell, which was fantastic.
And Audrick's second half as the hammer, it worked out really well.
Yeah.
I think, Milton, the first part of your question, I think it's a lot of those things. I think it's lack of leadership so far. And I think it's not handling adversity well. I don't think this team handled losing to Ohio State well. And they did not show up to Marshall. And when things didn't go well early against Marshall, they didn't respond to it. But they did today. They responded to the latest batch of adversity well. Better. They responded better. Tyler Evans also said with Super Chat, we ran screens. And screens that I honestly didn't think were going to work against this Cal team.
And it did.
Screens and
Yep. I have a Super Chat from TJ Fallon. TJ says, good win, a lot to improve on. Who did Ben Morrison start over today? Eli looks extremely good as a run blocker. Don't know why he doesn't play more. Agree?
Good question.
Well, part of with Eli, in fairness, Eli didn't get fully cleared until like the week of Ohio State. If I'm under, because remember he tore his ACL in December,
right?
And he's probably still a little bit in limit your reps phase. Yeah. So I'm going to defend the staff a little bit on that one. I don't know if they could have played him the Kevin Bauman snaps the first couple games, honestly. So I think he's still working up to that. So I'm going to defend them a little bit on that one. Just because again, we do know that he didn't get cleared, and Kane Barong didn't get fully cleared until like the last 2 weeks. So that's been part of it as well, fellas. Also,
if Eli is this good of a blocker already with how athletic he is, man, he's going to be a stud, though. That's all I have to say. He's going to be a stud.
And then to answer the first part of your question, I believe it was Cam Hart and Benjamin Morrison and Tariq Bracy on the field at the begining. I think they started in the nickel. I have to go back and look at that, but I'm pretty sure that's how they started today. So I have to look at that one again. So, guys, that's the end of the super chats. But can we just talk for a minute about college football today? Like, have you guys looked at I just, like, during the show, I was looking at scores, and there were some really weird scores. Are you guys watching what Missouri State is doing to Arkansas right now?
It's insane, man.
No. Arkansas tied it up, and Missouri State has scored 10 unanswered points. They're up 27-7. No, Arkansas just scored to make it 27-24. But, yeah, they're up 27. That's where Bobby Petrino's the head coach there, former Arkansas head coach.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. Let's see here. You've got NC State's taking it to Texas Tech. I got stuck. Washington is blasting Michigan State right now. And what did I say, fellas? Michigan State's pass defense is no better than it was last year. They just didn't play anybody. And Michael Penix, there's 10 minutes left in the third quarter. 10 minutes left in the third quarter. Michael Penix is 20 of 27 for 346 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Brian, you missed the big news of the day, though. Iowa is leading Nevada 17-0. Iowa scored 17 points today, my friends.
Well, they're still a touchdown away from the spread, which still doesn't make any sense to me. Florida is beating South Florida 24-21 in the third quarter. Third quarter, Pitt's beating Western Michigan 13-6. That's a weird score. UTSA, I was stuck between two upset picks today. I went with UTSA over Texas. UTSA was up 10-0 to start. It's now 17-17 at halftime. But Kansas, guys, Lance Leopold, if Nebraska doesn't throw the bank at Lance Leopold, they should fire everyone involved in making decisions on football.
Yeah.
Right? Like the guy turned Buffalo into a bowl team. First of all, he won 5 national championships at Wisconsin Whitewater.
Yep.
Goes to Buffalo and turns them into a bowl team. Now he's got, not only does he have Kansas 3-0, fellas, but Kansas is 3-0 with road wins over an AAC team that began the year ranked in the top 25 and then a road win at West Virginia. They beat Houston today 48-30. Kansas is 3-0, fellas.
That's crazy.
And they beat Houston and West Virginia.
Sean Stiers is dancing in the street right now. He was just texting me about his Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't know
that
he
was
was a
his
Jayhawk.
upset pick for the week. That was his upset pick for the week.
He went to Kansas, so it's a little bit cheating, but whatever. He's an
Yeah.
alum. I'm proud of
And
him.
your boy Mike Elko is 3-0.
He is.
So they beat North Carolina A&T today, beat Northwestern last week. And I'm sorry, it's petty of me, but I thoroughly enjoyed when I saw that Northwestern lost at home to
The
Southern
the
Illinois.
Salukis, baby. The Salukis.
Did you see the quarterback for Southern Illinois? His name is Nick Baker, and he is 5'9".
Are you
Literally.
serious? And
No, I'm,
Hey,
I'm 100%.
No, seriously.
5'9".
he went 23 of 34 today for 241 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He's a
against
great
Northwestern.
FCS quarterback. He's a great
Yeah.
FCS quarterback. He's still 5'9".
Yep. And also ran for a touchdown.
Come on, baby.
That is
Yeah.
hilarious.
And the streets of Chicago are happy because there's nothing better than Pat Fitzgerald being on the hot seat.
And my picks today were good, except for one exception. Holy Auburn.
I don't know
Auburn's
why you
terrible,
thought.
man.
I don't know why you
Terrible.
believed in TJ.
Well, because I
Finley.
just wasn't. It's not that I believed in TJ Finley. It's I just thought they could slow down Penn State's run game, and I have just
No.
not been impressed with Penn State. But holy crap!
Sean,
Well, I know
Sean.
Nick Singleton, but who's Ryan number 13, the
They
running back
went
from
for
Penn State.
and another kid
245
too.
today.
Yeah,
Dude,
I don't-
they literally have 3 really good running backs.
Oh,
in
and,
Penn
They
and
State.
do.
by
Penn
the
State.
way,
3.
By the
Yeah.
way, the 2 running backs today that led them in rushing, I just want to point out, are both true freshmen.
From Virginia, man.
So
It's
they
crazy.
combined for 176 yards on 19 carries. It was Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, both
Katron
freshmen.
Allen. But see,
By
I
the
don't think honestly, Brian, our freshman probably would have been getting a lot of tick if he didn't tear his Achilles. That's at that position.
Well, I'm just talking about with Tobias Merriweather
Yeah.
is my issue. Jadarin would be playing as a running
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope so, because the stuff we heard about how good he was in the spring, we also heard in the summer and fall camp about Tobias Merriweather, and took him 3 games to get him on the field. But man,
True.
Yeah.
True.
Here's the
some
question.
crazy scores today. And
Does
Jeff
Brian-
Collins is done at Georgia Tech, dude. If you
Well,
take
I-
another shot at me, I swear I'm going to go off.
No, I wasn't. I
Okay.
promise. I was going to say, is Brian Harsin going to make it to the end of the season
No.
for Auburn? That's
no,
my question.
no, Ryan. Seriously,
Yeah.
you can't lose that bad to a Big Ten team. With the way SEC fans feel about the Big Ten, right or wrong,
Yeah.
you can't get embarrassed like that. You can't get embarrassed like that, guys.
Why did you
I
assume
mean-
I was going to take another shot at you?
Because you just have this way of setting me up for hey Brian, and then there's
Yeah.
going to be some kind of insult coming afterwards.
Brian,
So-
UCLA kicking a last-second field goal to beat South Alabama.
Did they
That's
really?
insane, man? It's insane.
Wow.
Did you see Wake Forest beat Liberty 37-36?
So did they go for 2? Is that what happened?
I don't know.
Did they? Because it was 37-30. I saw.
They must have.
Because I was kind of had that, and then Liberty made it 37-36, and I didn't see what happened. I'm actually going to go look and see what happened if they went for 2. Yeah, they went for 2. They scored. Liberty scored with 1:11 left, and they went for 2 to win it and didn't get it. And that's how
crazy.
Wake Forest won.
For it. Go.
So-
I mean, might as well on the road. Underdog.
You know what? For a team like Liberty, I got no problem with that.
Too, man.
You're not stopping Wake Forest in overtime.
right.
No.
Come on. I got no problem with it. I don't know what the play call was. Maybe I might question the play call, but whatever. I think the play is fine. So yeah, guys, weird day of college football. Arkansas just went back on top, 31-24, but now Missouri has it 1st and 15 in Arkansas territory with 9 minutes left in the half. So
I feel like there's a lot of
with Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
13-6. Arkansas got the lead back on a punt return for an 82-yard punt return for a touchdown. And they were down 17-0 at one point in time, Arkansas was. KJ Jefferson, fellas, today is dealing. He is 17 of 28 for 362 yards. So he is dealing today. So wild day of college football. This has been a very strange, entertaining start to the season. There's been a lot of weird stuff for the first 3 games, guys, and I don't quite know why, but there has been some really feels like the 2007 season. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt, Tyler. Absolutely. We also have a super chat from Relly Q. Freeman looked like he had to remind himself to enjoy the victory in the postgame presser because he already wants to get back and fix things. Love it.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Good. That's how you want it to be. Hey, this ain't about me getting my first win. We got some goals in front of us. So
it's about what we got to get done. I like that.
Right. Yeah. I like it. I liked the post-game press conference. I actually liked his Monday press conference. I want a head coach that looks upset when the team's not playing well. I don't want him to be in there like, everything's fine. We're good. Keep doing what we're doing. I want him to be a little pissed off. Tells me he cares and tells me he wants to figure out a way to fix it. And for the most part, they did. So it was an interesting day. So, guys, that is going to do it for today's show. I really appreciate all of you. Syracuse beating Purdue today as well, by the way. I got to watch that game because did I see the final?
And
say that again?
Purdue scored with less than a minute to go. Hughes goes down and scores with like 5 seconds to go.
So that's a weird score because we were watching that in the press box, Vince, and for like most of the game, I remember it being like a really low-scoring game.
Yeah, they scored 42 points in the fourth quarter combined.
Yeah. I thought, for a second, Sean, I thought it went in overtime.
No.
Like I thought it was like a 15-15 game and went in overtime.
No.
But yeah, they scored. Syracuse hit 22 and Purdue hit 20.
Yeah, what happened? Purdue scored with like a minute 15 said, with like Vince said, but they got 2 personal foul penalties.
Yes.
On that play, they ended up kicking from their own like 15 or something like that. And Syracuse got the ball at the 50-yard line with like a minute left.
Wow.
And scored with like 7 seconds left.
The Purdue kid who caught the ball just started talking trash to the fans.
And then he talked trash on the point after attempt and got another one.
So dumb.
It was crazy.
So dumb.
Yeah.
That's the second game Purdue's choked away. Syracuse had a 25-15 lead with 8 minutes left. Purdue scored it with 6:41. Charlie Jones has been quite the find for Purdue this year. So, yes, Iowa's offense is that bad.
Yeah.
And then, 51 seconds left they scored. Wow.
Look who the leading receiver was today for Syracuse. A blast for the pass name.
Gatson?
Rondé Gatson. Wow.
Rondé Gatson Jr.
Are we really that old that Rondé Gatson's got a kid playing college football?
Yeah.
I thought Ryan was hitting me with some like 6th-year senior that we heard from like 5 years ago. No. You know what I mean?
No. He ran a good route on that winning touchdown last week or something.
Caleb. Yeah.
He ran a really good route on the winning touchdown.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Nah, Brian, it wasn't like a what was it? CJ Holmes is playing for like Kent State or something. I saw you the other day.
Oh, did he hit him on a corner route, Sean? I'm watching that now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the kid's probably like been working on route running since he could walk. You know what I mean? With his pops, I would imagine.
If he's got his dad's hands, then yeah.
Yeah, because it was 9-3 in the second half when I kind of tuned out because we were getting kind of close to Notre Dame kickoff time. And I saw the final, and I was like, wow, how the heck did that happen? But yeah, that's a wild day of college football, fellas. And it looks like it could get crazier because there's some really interesting games going on right now. Arkansas's up 4. Texas Tech just scored to make it a 2-touchdown game. Michigan State somehow got into 4th and 30. They're about to give the ball back to them. And Western Michigan just scored to make it 13-12, fellas, with a minute 30 in the third quarter against Pitt.
Wow.
So
Rondé Gatson's son is 6'5", 216 pounds.
Wow. I don't remember Rondé Gatson being that big. How big was he?
I think he was like 6'3".
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, I think he was tall. Yeah, my son's
interesting. Yeah. Oh boy. Well, quite a day, fellas. And ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate all of you. Mace K, we don't know where you've been, man. We are glad to see you back. Mace K tells you guys exactly what you need to know. Join the message board, everybody. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Share this podcast. Leave a 5-star review. Visit the IB store for the best merch. And as always, go Irish. And remember, tomorrow, 7 p.m., Vince and I are going to dive into the film. It's going to be ugly, but it's a lot more fun to watch ugly film when your team got the W. And so today they got the W. So we will be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. for the Upon Further Review. Monday, 1 o'clock p.m., these two cats down here, Sean and Ryan, will be together. They will obviously talk about how things went recruiting-wise this weekend and talk about this wild weekend of college football a little bit further. Guys, good weekend. Good weekend. Got that W. A lot to improve upon, but this team showed me a little something today. No doubt about it. So, Sean, Ryan, Vince, thank you guys so much for joining me today on the Irish Breakdown podcast.